The first thing I noticed was that my mug was in Brooke's hand. Not the new sign leaning against my sample cabinet. Not the artificial peonies scattered across my work table. Not even my sister sitting in my chair with her boots propped on the bottom drawer, like she'd been photographed there for a magazine profile. My mug. It was blue ceramic chipped at the handle, with Natalie Mercer makes things happen. Printed on the side, Brooke had given it to me 6 Christmases earlier, back when she still told people I was the reason she believed women could build something of their own. Mom stood near the window arranging croissants on one of my serving boards. She looked up and smiled. "Oh," she said, "you're back early." Behind her, in gold letters tall enough to catch the morning sun, the news sign read, "Brooke Mercer Events." I set my suitcase beside the door. "What is this?" Brooke lowered the mug. For half a second, she looked caught. Then Mom put down the pastry tongs and gave her the smallest nod. That was the part I would remember. Not the sign, not the mug, the nod, like they had prepared for me. 10 days earlier, my office still had my name on the door. It sat above Bellwether Bakery on West 3rd, 3 rooms connected by a narrow hallway that tilted slightly toward the street. During winter, the radiators hissed like offended cats. During summer, the whole place smelled like cinnamon before 9 in the morning and yeast after lunch. I'd worked there for 8 years and could tell time by whatever the bakery was pulling from its ovens. The office wasn't impressive in the way people imagined an event designer's office should be. There were no champagne towers, no wall of fresh roses. Mostly there were labeled bins, folding rulers, fabric books, charging cords, invoices, and one temperamental printer I regularly threatened in front of clients. The printer and I had reached an understanding. Brooke had not reached an understanding with anything in years. "You make unemployment sound so ugly," she told me when I used the word. We were sitting at Mom and Dad's kitchen table on a Sunday afternoon. Mom was cutting coupons with the tiny silver scissors she kept in a jelly jar. Dad had a baseball game playing on mute because Mom said commentators raised her blood pressure. "You were fired," I said. "That's usually followed by unemployment." I was released from a bad fit. Dad glanced away from the television. "Isn't that getting fired?" "Dennis," Mom said. "What?" "I'm clarifying." Brooke tore a corner from her napkin and rolled it between her fingers. At 34, she still had the ability to look younger when consequences came up. She had thick blonde hair that fell into loose waves without any apparent effort, while mine reacted to humidity like it had received terrible news. The showroom was toxic, she said. "Gavin had an issue with me from day one. Gavin hired you." "Exactly. He thought he could control me. You sold dining room sets." There was more to it than that. I reached for the coffee pot. It was empty, which meant Dad had poured himself the last cup and put it back so no one could accuse him of finishing it. "What happened?" I asked. Brooke looked at Mom. Mom kept cutting. "Gavin was tracking everyone's sales," Brooke said. "He's the sales manager. He was pitting us against each other." "By tracking sales. You're doing that thing." "What thing?" "Where you repeat my words in a meaner tone." "I'm using the same tone." Dad raised one finger without looking away from the silent game. "Slightly meaner." "Thank you," Brooke said. "I meant yours." Mom slapped the scissors onto the table. "Can we please not turn this into a courtroom?" Brooke is going through a transition. Brooke gave me a look that said, "See?" I stood to make another pot of coffee. I knew the choreography. Brooke would explain just enough to be injured, but not enough to be responsible. Mom would fill the gaps with compassion. Dad would make one joke, realize humor wasn't saving him, and relocate to the garage. Then somebody would ask me if I knew anyone who was hiring. "I'm not asking you to find me another job," Brooke said. I had not turned around yet. "That's good. I have an idea. That's also good. You don't even know what it is." Behind me, a chair leg scraped across the linoleum. I added grounds to the filter and waited. "I'm going into event planning." The scoop slipped from my hand and landed inside the coffee maker. Dad laughed once, then disguised it as a cough. Brooke's voice sharpened. "Why is that funny?" "It isn't." I fished the scoop out. I was surprised. Why? I've worked events. You've helped me at some events. I've done more than help. I turned around. Okay. There were people who could make that word sound like a slap. I wasn't trying to, but Brooke reacted like I had. You say you support women starting businesses, she said. You literally posted that last month. That was for a women's entrepreneurship luncheon, so it only applies to strangers? Brooke, you just told us your idea 12 seconds ago. Mom's mouth tightened. She's excited. Now, you don't have to pick it apart immediately. I haven't picked anything apart. You laughed. That was me, Dad said. Nobody acknowledged him. Brooke pushed her napkin aside. I know clients. I know vendors. I know how events work. She knew some of my clients because I had brought her in as paid help when she was between jobs. She knew vendors because she had stood beside me while I negotiated with them. She knew how events worked in the same way I knew how baseball worked. Somebody threw, somebody hit, and people shouted about things I couldn't see. Still, I didn't say any of that. If you're serious, I said, there are certification programs at Columbus State. You could also work under a planner for a year. Learn budgets, contracts, load-ins, vendor insurance. I'm not going back to school. It's not a degree. I learn by doing. Then work for someone established. You're established. There it was. Mom looked at me over the rims of her glasses. I poured water into the coffee maker, pressed the button, and heard it make the hollow choking sound that meant Dad had forgotten to put the carafe back. Hot coffee streamed directly onto the warming plate. Dad stood. Garage. Sit down, Mom snapped. He sat. I grabbed a dish towel and mopped around the machine. Brooke watched me as if my answer had already arrived and I was just making everyone wait for it. I'm leaving Wednesday for the Rutherford retreat, I said. When I get back, I'll look over a business plan if you've written one. A business plan. Yes. You started with a business plan? I started with 2 clients and a borrowed folding table. I would not recommend it. Maybe I don't want to build it exactly the way you did. Then don't. Mom sighed. Natalie. I dropped the wet towel into the sink. What? She's asking for guidance. I offered guidance. You offered homework. Brooke leaned back, wounded but composed. She was excellent at looking composed. It made the rest of us feel unruly. I thought you might let me shadow you, she said. Maybe introduce me to a couple of people. But it's fine. The coffee continued burning on the hot plate, filling the kitchen with a bitter smell. We can talk when I get back, I said. Forget it. Brooke. No, seriously, forget it. I don't need to beg my own sister for a chance. She stood, kissed Mom on the cheek, and left through the back door. Mom stared at the table until Brooke's car pulled away. Then she said, You could have been kinder. I offered to help her make a plan. She wanted to feel that you believed in her. Those are different things. Not to someone who has been knocked down. Dad picked up the carafe from beside the sink and carefully slid it under the coffee maker, 8 minutes too late. Could we agree, he said, that everyone was a little emotional because there wasn't coffee? Mom gathered her coupons into a stack. I looked through the window above the sink. Brooke's tires had left 2 dark tracks through the damp gravel. She gets an idea, I said, and all of you start acting like it already happened. No one said that. She doesn't know what she doesn't know. Then teach her. I have a business to run. Mom's face changed at that. Not much. Just enough. You've done very well, she said. It sounded complimentary. With Mom, that was often when I needed to be careful. And Brooke hasn't, I said. She hasn't found her place yet. So I'm supposed to give her mine? No one is asking for your place. I'm asking you to open a door. I've opened a lot of doors for her. Mom began lining up the coupons by expiration date. Yes, she said, and you always keep count. That landed harder than it should have. I left soon after, carrying the blueberry loaf Mom had wrapped for me before we argued. That was how love worked in our family. It arrived warm, wrapped in foil, with the accusation still attached. On Wednesday morning, Brooke texted me at 5:47. Good luck at your fancy retreat. Hope they appreciate you. I read it twice while standing in my office with my suitcase open on the work table. The Rutherford Group retreat was a 10-day job at a lakeside resort north of town. 200 employees, 6 meals, 4 workshops, 1 awards dinner, and an outdoor team-building afternoon that would move inside the minute the Ohio sky remembered it was October. It was the largest contract I'd booked that year. I had spent 4 months coordinating it, and if it went well, the company's operations director had already hinted they might hire me for 3 more regional events. I typed, "Thank you. We'll talk when I'm back." Then I deleted it. I typed, "I do believe in you. I just want you to be prepared." That sounded patronizing, even though it was true. Finally, I sent a heart. Brooke sent one back immediately. That should have reassured me. Instead, I stood there looking at the tiny red shape until the screen went dark. My assistant for the retreat, Gina Patel, arrived at 6, carrying 2 coffees and a roll of emergency gaffer tape looped around her wrist like a bracelet. "You look haunted," she said. "Family breakfast. On a Wednesday?" "Sunday." I retained dread. She handed me a coffee. Gina was 46, divorced, aggressively practical, and incapable of entering a room without locating every exit. She had freelanced with me for 3 years and was one of the few people who could tell from my face whether I needed advice or silence. "Is this the sister?" she asked. "Why does everyone say it like that? Because you only have one and every story about her requires a beverage." I smiled despite myself. We loaded the last supply boxes into my car. Before locking up, I checked the sample cabinets, shut down the printer, and left 2 vendor checks in the top drawer of my desk. My name was still stenciled in white across the frosted glass door. Downstairs, the bakery owner waved through a cloud of flour. By noon, Gina and I were at the resort arguing with a facilities coordinator about extension cords. By evening, 3 attendees had changed dietary requirements, and the keynote speaker wanted the stage rotated 90 degrees because she didn't like speaking with a window behind her. The work swallowed me the way it always did. Problems arrived one at a time, and each had a solution if I stayed calm long enough. On the 4th day, Mom called during lunch. "Everything all right?" I asked. "Of course." "Why wouldn't it be? You called me." "A mother can call." Behind her, I heard a hollow thump, then Brooke saying something I couldn't make out. "Are you with Brooke?" Mom paused half a second too long. "She's helping me with something." "What?" "Nothing you need to worry about. How's the retreat?" Someone knocked on my hotel room door. Gina called. "We have a linen emergency," in the solemn voice of a surgeon announcing internal bleeding. "I have to go," I told Mom. "All right, honey, don't exhaust yourself." After we hung up, I stared at the phone. Then another call came through from a number I recognized. It was Elaine Crawford, a client whose anniversary dinner was 6 weeks away. "Natalie?" she said when I answered. "I'm sorry, I know you asked everyone not to contact you." I stepped away from Gina. I didn't ask that. Silence. Then Elaine lowered her voice. "Brooke said you quit." "What do you mean?" She said I quit. Elaine gave a nervous little laugh. I knew I shouldn't have called. "No, I'm glad you did. Tell me exactly what she said." Gina remained in the doorway, the linen emergency temporarily forgotten. I turned toward the window and pressed a finger into my free ear, even though the hotel room was quiet. "She said you'd decided to leave the industry," Elaine said. "Something about stress and family obligations. She was very discreet. Brooke was always at her most dangerous when people found her tasteful." "When did she call you?" "Yesterday afternoon. She said you wanted your clients to have continuity, so she would be handling the dinner." "Did she say I authorized that?" Another pause. "She said you asked her to reach out." I sat on the edge of the bed. Elaine and her husband Martin were celebrating 40 years of marriage. She had hired me after attending a retirement dinner I designed for one of her colleagues. We'd already chosen the venue, signed the florist, and spent an entire meeting discussing whether gold-rimmed water glasses looked elegant or a little casino. Elaine had emailed me pictures of her wedding bouquet so we could echo the colors without making the whole dinner look like 1986. I did not quit, I said. I'm out of town managing an event. Your dinner is still on my calendar and nothing about our agreement has changed. Oh, I'm sorry Brooke contacted you. She sounded very certain. I'm sure she did. Is she working with you now? No. Gina crossed her arms. Elaine exhaled slowly. She said she had been working with you for years. She has assisted me at a handful of events. That is not the same thing. I see. There was a new distance in her voice, not hostility, caution. It was the sound people made when they realized they had stepped into a family fight and wanted to back out without touching anything. Did you give her any money? I asked. No. She offered me a new package, though. It was quite a bit cheaper. Of course it was. Would you forward me anything she sent you? Yes, I can do that. Thank you. And Elaine? Yes? You didn't do anything wrong by taking her call. After we hung up, I stayed on the bed with the phone against my knee. Gina shut the door behind her. How bad? My sister told one of my clients I quit. The sister. Yes, the sister. And then what? And then offered to replace me. Gina stared at me. What kind of linen emergency? I asked. You're changing subjects. I'm at work. We have 54 sage napkins and 48 eucalyptus napkins. They are different enough to annoy me, but not different enough to matter to a normal person. Alternate them by table. That's what I said. Then why are you here? To see if you agreed with me before Roger from facilities made a face. What kind of face? The face of a man who has never folded a napkin but has opinions about color flow. I stood. Gina didn't move. Call your sister, she said. I'm going to. Now. I can walk and call. You're holding your room key in one hand and your phone in the other. You're about to lock yourself in the hallway. I looked down. She was right. Brooke's phone rang 5 times before going to voicemail. Hey, it's Brooke. I'm probably doing something more interesting than answering my phone. I hung up before the beep and called again. Voicemail, I texted her. Elaine Crawford says you told her I quit. Call me right now. The message showed as delivered, not read. I called Mom. She answered on the second ring, breathless. Hi, honey, where are you? There was another hollow thump in the background, the same sound I had heard earlier. Running errands. With Brooke? Yes. What errands? Mom's voice cooled. Why are you interrogating me? Brooke called Elaine Crawford and told her I quit my business. This time, the silence wasn't half a second. It was long enough for Gina to raise both eyebrows. Mom? I don't know anything about that. Are you with her right now? She just stepped away. Where are you? We're busy. Put her on the phone. Natalie, I don't appreciate your tone. My client thinks I had a breakdown and secretly quit. Find Brooke and put her on the phone. Mom lowered her voice. She may have misunderstood something. What could she have misunderstood? You told her you didn't want her involved. That's not an answer. She's trying to get herself back on her feet. Maybe she reached out to ask for advice. She told Elaine I quit. I already said I don't know anything about that. Then let me talk to Brooke. Something scraped across the floor on Mom's end. Brooke said, more clearly this time, just leave that one there. I knew that voice. She wasn't across a store. She was standing beside Mom. I heard her, I said. She's occupied. So am I. Well, then maybe this isn't the best time. Mom hung up. I stared at the screen. Gina held out her hand. Give me the room key. What? You're about to call them back while angry. I'm removing one source of inconvenience. I gave her the key. We went downstairs and solved the napkin crisis. Roger from facilities made the face. Gina made one back. 30 minutes later, I was standing on a ladder adjusting a banner when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I climbed down so fast Gina grabbed the ladder. It wasn't Brooke. It was an email from Elaine with a screenshot attached. The message came from a new business address with a pale pink signature block. Hi, Elaine. I wanted to personally reach out before news travels in an impersonal way. Natalie has made the difficult decision to step away from event planning after years of giving so much of herself to the work. As her sister and longtime behind-the-scenes partner, I'm honored to continue caring for the wonderful clients she built relationships with. I read it twice. Underneath was a logo made from Brooke's initials and a gold line that curved like a loose piece of ribbon. "Long time behind-the-scenes partner," I said. Gina read over my shoulder. "Did she write this herself?" "Probably. It has 3 exclamation points. She gets cheerful when she lies." My phone rang before I could say more. This time it was Malcolm Reese, the facilities manager at a local nonprofit where I had designed 2 annual fundraisers. "Natalie, I'm trying to confirm something," he said. "Did you close your company?" "No." "Okay, that's what I thought. Did Brooke call you?" "She emailed our administrative office. She said you were stepping away and she was taking over your active accounts." My stomach tightened. "Do I have an active account with you?" "We were about to request a proposal for February." Brooke knew that because she had worked coat check at their last fundraiser and overheard Malcolm tell me to expect his call. "She doesn't represent me," I said. "Please don't share any event information with her. Already handled." It didn't sound like you. That should have comforted me. Instead, I wondered how many people had thought it sounded enough like me not to call. By dinner, I had heard from 4 clients and 1 caterer. Brooke had told different versions of the same story. I was burned out. I had accepted a corporate position. I was taking time away for a private family matter. Each version had been shaped to the person receiving it. She still hadn't answered me. I opened the spreadsheet containing my active accounts and started calling them one by one. That was how I spent Saturday night at a lakeside resort, sitting at a hotel desk under a framed picture of a canoe, asking grown adults whether my sister had informed them I no longer existed professionally. Some said no. Some hesitated first. Those were worse. At 9:30, Gina arrived with 2 boxed dinners and set one beside my laptop. "You need to eat." I had crackers. Crackers are what you give a nauseated raccoon. "I'm almost done. You have tomorrow's workshop sheets to approve, the weather plan to finalize, and a keynote speaker who thinks stage direction is a spiritual issue." "I know." "Then eat the chicken." I opened the box. The chicken had the texture of insulation, but I ate it anyway. "Go home," Gina said. "I can't." "You can." "I can manage here for a day. The awards dinner is Monday, and your sister is calling your clients today. If I leave in the middle of this retreat after Brooke tells everyone I'm too overwhelmed to work, what does that look like? Like you have a family emergency. That's what she told them." Gina leaned back against the desk. "You don't have to prove her wrong by letting her burn down the office while you alphabetize napkins." "I'm not alphabetizing them. You understand my point." I did. I hated that I did. But 200 people were already at the resort. My vendors were under contract. The Rutherford operations director had trusted me with an event that represented nearly a quarter of my annual revenue. Brooke could lie about my work. I wasn't going to make it easier by abandoning it. "I'll stay through Monday night," I said, "then I'll drive back. What was your original plan?" "Tuesday afternoon, so you're gaining half a day. It's a powerful half a day." Gina pushed the dinner box closer. Mom called again just before 10. I let it ring twice before answering. "Have you spoken to your sister?" she asked. "She won't answer. She's upset." I laughed because there was no safe alternative. Mom continued. "She says she didn't mean for anyone to think you were ill. She told people I quit. She thought you were cutting back." "No, she didn't. You were very clear that you didn't have room for her in your business. That still doesn't become me quitting. You don't know how rejected she felt. I'm not discussing her feelings until someone explains why she contacted my clients." Mom sighed, weary with me. She saw an opportunity. To announce my retirement, she used the wrong words. She used several different wrong words with several different people. She's trying to start something of her own. Then she can start with people of her own. "You have so many contacts, Natalie." There it was again. "You have so much. She has so little." The family math that turned taking from me into redistribution. "Where were you this afternoon?" I asked. "I told you, we were running errands. What was that noise?" "What noise?" "The banging. Brooke telling you where to leave something." Mom did not answer. My office key came back to me in a sharp, ridiculous memory. 2 years earlier, standing in her kitchen after a pipe burst above the bakery. I had placed the spare on her key ring myself. "Mom," I said, "were you in my office?" She needed somewhere professional to meet people. For a moment, I couldn't feel the phone in my hand. "What did you do?" "Nothing permanent." "What did you do?" "We moved a few things." "Out of my office?" "Into it. Your things are still there." I stood so quickly my knee struck the desk. "You gave Brooke my office?" "I did not give her anything. You're away, and the rooms are sitting empty." "They are not empty. They're my office. She's your sister. What does that have to do with my lease? You don't have to make everything sound so cold." I walked to the window. Beyond the glass, the lake was black, except for a broken path of moonlight near the dock. "Take her things out," I said. "Natalie, tonight. We are not driving across town at 10 o'clock because you've decided to panic. Then first thing tomorrow, Brooke has a consultation." "In my office?" "She needs 1 hour." "No, you aren't even there. That's why you did it." Mom went quiet. I could hear a television in the background and Dad asking whether there was any pie left. "Your sister has had a terrible year," Mom said, "and I just became part of it." I hung up. A second later, another email appeared from Elaine. "I thought you should see this, too." Attached was a photograph Brooke had sent her. Brooke stood smiling beside my desk. Behind her, propped against my locked sample cabinet, was a gold sign bearing the name of her new company. My blue mug sat beside her hand. For several seconds, I studied the photograph like it contained a hidden detail that would make the rest of it less true. Brooke had moved my laptop stand to the floor. My framed vendor licenses were gone from the wall behind the desk. The brass lamp had been angled toward her face, and my chair was turned so the room looked brighter and larger than it did in person. She hadn't simply carried in a few boxes. She had staged my office as hers. I forwarded the photograph to myself, then closed the laptop before I did something foolish, like call Brooke and leave a message I would later have to play for a therapist. Gina watched me from across the room. "You're going home," she said. "Monday night." I meant now. The workshop starts at 8. It will start whether you're standing beside it or not. What happens when the speaker asks why the wireless microphone is cutting out? I tell him it's because he keeps wandering through the dead zone we marked with tape. He doesn't believe in the tape. He'll believe in me. I smiled, but it didn't last. If I go tonight, I get there after midnight. The bakery will be closed. I can't get a locksmith. Brooke won't answer, and Mom will turn off the porch light and pretend she's asleep. You've thought this through. I grew up with these people. Gina sat in the desk chair and pulled the emergency gaffer tape from her wrist. Then what can you do from here? I looked at the dark laptop. I can make sure she doesn't get anything else. I changed the password to my business email, my client database, and the cloud folder where I kept current proposals. Brooke had once known an old password because I'd let her print place cards from my laptop during a gala. I had changed it afterward, but suddenly every ordinary bit of trust felt like a loose window. Then I sent a brief email to every active client. I am currently managing an out-of-town event and remain fully in business. No one is authorized to transfer, negotiate, or modify your agreement on my behalf. Please contact me directly regarding any communication suggesting otherwise. I read it until the words stopped looking like English. It sounds cold, I said. It sounds sane. It sounds like there's a lawsuit happening. There isn't. Exactly. Gina leaned forward. You're trying to make a family betrayal look like a scheduling correction. It won't. I sent it anyway. At 6 the next morning, Dad called. I was already in the conference hall lining up workshop packets because anxiety had gotten me out of bed before the alarm. Your mother says you two had words, he said. We had several. She's pretty upset. I'm not doing great either. I know, I told her that. Did you? A pause. Well, not in those exact words. Dad's conflict style involved supporting people privately in ways they could never verify. Did you use your truck to move Brooke into my office? He cleared his throat. It was a desk and some display items. Did you know I had agreed to it? Your mother said it was temporary. That isn't what I asked. I assumed everybody had discussed it. Why would you assume that? Because Lorraine had your key. I closed my eyes. Take the desk back. Natalie, it's 6 a.m, not this second. Brooke says she has appointments. She has no right to hold appointments there. She's trying to get started. By telling my clients I quit. Now that part doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right because it isn't. I'm sure she'll explain. She's had 2 days to explain. Dad sighed. Couldn't you let her use the place until you get home? No. It might calm things down. For whom? Another pause. The ballroom doors opened and the Rutherford operations director entered carrying a tray of coffees. I turned away from her. Dad, I need you to listen carefully. I did not give Brooke permission to enter my office, move my things, contact my clients, or operate her business from my address. Tell Mom to remove everything today. I'm hearing you. That was not the same as agreeing, and we both knew it. Will you do it? I'll talk to them. He hung up 5 minutes before the first workshop, leaving me with the familiar sensation of having handed someone a bucket during a fire and watched him set it down to discuss everybody's feelings about water. The next 2 days were a blur of projector cables, revised meal counts, and phone calls taken in service corridors. Brooke answered none of mine. She did, however, send one text late Sunday evening. You're overreacting based on incomplete information. I'll explain when you can be calm. I showed it to Gina. She's brave from a distance, Gina said. She gets that from Mom. No, your mother calls. That's a different combat style. By Monday afternoon, 3 clients had confirmed Brooke contacted them. 2 hadn't responded to me at all. Malcolm from the nonprofit sent a polite note saying their proposal request was being postponed while they reviewed internal plans. It might have been unrelated. The fact that I couldn't know was part of the damage. The Rutherford Awards dinner began at 7. For 4 hours, nothing belonged to me except the work. The stage lights held. The centerpieces arrived at the right height. The keynote speaker stayed mostly inside the taped boundary. When the Chief Operating Officer's award envelope disappeared, I found it under a stack of dessert menus with 90 seconds to spare. Near the end of the night, the operations director, Valerie, pulled me aside. This has been our smoothest retreat, she said. I don't know how you stay this calm. I almost laughed. Low blood pressure. Seriously, we want to talk about the regional meetings. That would be wonderful. You'll be around next year, right? I heard some strange rumor from someone in the office. My smile tightened. I'm not going anywhere. Good. She touched my arm and moved away to greet an executive. The rumor had reached a client 2 hours from Columbus, whose staff had never met Brooke. I finished the dinner. I waited until the last vendor was paid and the final rented chair was stacked. Then I changed clothes, drank a coffee, Gina declared too dangerous for civilian use, and loaded my suitcase into the car. I can drive with you, she said. And leave your car here? I could drive yours. You look like you've been awake since Thursday. I'll stop if I get tired. You say that like stopping is a personal failure. I stop at red lights. Usually. She hugged me before I could brace for it. Don't let them convince you this is confusion, she said. The highway was almost empty. I drove south with the radio off, rehearsing things I would never say. Some were too cruel. Some were too pleading. Most ended with Brooke finally admitting she knew exactly what she had done. I reached Columbus before dawn and slept for 90 minutes in my own bed without changing out of my clothes. At 8:15, I parked behind Bellwether Bakery. Flour dust hung in the downstairs windows. The owner, Miguel, was carrying a tray of muffins toward the display case. "You're back," he said when I entered. "Did my mother and sister move furniture upstairs?" His expression answered before he did. "Saturday. I thought you knew." "What did they bring?" "A desk. Boxes. Flowers that looked real until your father dropped one. Did they take anything out?" "Not downstairs." He set the tray on the counter. Natalie, your sister has been meeting people up there. How many? I saw 2 yesterday. Maybe 3. My hand tightened around the suitcase handle. Did she tell you I quit? Miguel glanced toward the ceiling. She said you were making a life change. I didn't believe her. Why not? You ordered 8 dozen breakfast pastries for next month. I could have kissed him. Instead, I thanked him and climbed the stairs. My key still worked. I unlocked the frosted glass door, stepped inside, and found the scene from Elaine's photograph made solid. The gold sign, the peonies, my mother arranging croissants, Brooke behind my desk with her boots braced against the bottom drawer and my mug in her hand. Mom gave Brooke that small nod. I heard myself ask, "What is this?" Brooke set the mug down carefully. "You're exhausted," she said. "Maybe sit before we talk. That's my chair." She stood, but slowly, as if granting a courtesy. Mom picked up the pastry tongs. "We expected you this afternoon. I came early. We can see that." I looked past them. My binders were gone from the shelf. The framed photograph of my first large fundraiser had disappeared. In its place hung 3 paper mood boards in blush, cream, and gold. "Where are my things?" "In the back," Brooke said. "Everything is safe." I walked down the hallway. The smallest room had been my consultation room, with 2 upholstered chairs and a round table near the window. Now my file boxes were stacked on one chair. Fabric books covered the table. My framed licenses leaned against the wall, glass facing inward. A box labeled Natalie Personal sat on the floor. They had written my name as if I were the one being moved out. I returned to the front room. "You went through my desk." Brooke crossed her arms. "I had to move a few things. You contacted my clients. I contacted people who needed to know there was another option. You told them I quit. I said you were stepping away. You told Elaine I had family problems. You do." Mom put the tongs down. "Natalie, don't start shouting. I'm not shouting. Your face is shouting." Brooke moved around the desk and leaned against it. She wore black pants, a cream blouse, and the gold hoop earrings I'd given her for her 30th birthday. She looked polished, prepared. "I was going to explain," she said. "When?" "When you got back and could listen." "I'm listening." She glanced at Mom. Mom said, "Brooke believes there is enough business for both of you. Then why did she tell my clients I was gone? I never said gone. You said quit. I said you were transitioning away from active planning. That means quit with more syllables." Brooke's composure cracked. "You wouldn't give me a chance. So you took my office?" "It was empty. It was occupied by my business. You weren't here." The outer door opened behind us. A woman in a camel coat stepped inside, holding Brooke's pink business card. "Oh," she said, looking from Brooke to me. "Am I early?" Brooke straightened and smiled. "Not at all. Natalie was just leaving." I looked at my sister. Then I reached for my blue mug, poured Brooke's coffee into the trash can, and set the mug beside my suitcase. "No," I said. She was. The woman's eyes moved to the coffee dripping from the rim of the trash can. Brooke's smile held. "Dana, this is my sister, Natalie. She's just back from a large event, so we're having a little scheduling confusion." "We're not," I said. Mom picked up a napkin and pressed it against the wet edge of the trash can, as if cleanliness might restore order. Dana remained near the door. She was in her late 50s with silver hair cut sharply at her jaw and reading glasses hanging from a red cord. "I can come back," she said. "You don't need to," Brooke told her. "We have plenty of time." "Brooke does not have permission to meet clients in this office," I said. "She is not affiliated with my company." "Natalie." Mom said my name quietly, the way people spoke to a dog approaching a picnic table. Dana looked at Brooke's pink card. "I thought this was your office." "It is," Brooke said. "It isn't," I said. Brooke's head snapped toward me. "Can you give me 10 minutes? I've given you 4 days. Dana tucked the card into her purse with exaggerated care. "This seems like a family matter." "It is," Mom said quickly. "Just a misunderstanding." "No," I said. "Brooke told my existing clients I had quit, and she moved into my office while I was out of town." Mom closed her eyes. Brooke went pale. That is an insane way to describe this. Dana gripped the strap of her purse. I'm going to go. You don't have to, Brooke said. I really do. I reserved this time for you. Dana gave her a look that managed to be sympathetic and final. I was hoping to discuss my retirement party. I don't think I'm comfortable discussing it today. She left. Her heels tapped quickly down the stairs. Brooke waited until the downstairs door closed. Then she turned on me. You humiliated me. You booked a consultation in my office. You could have handled that privately. I tried. You wouldn't answer. I was working. At my desk. I had no professional place to bring her. So you lied. I didn't lie to her. You told her this was your office. I said I had an office. Mom stepped between us, still holding the coffee-stained napkin. That poor woman didn't need to hear all of that. She needed to know who she was hiring, I said. Brooke laughed without humor. You loved that. What? Making me look ridiculous. You moved into my business with a sign. I bought a sign because I was serious. You had a logo before you had a contract. Every business has branding. Every business also needs permission to use its address. Stop talking to me like I'm stupid. The anger in her voice was sudden and real. It took some of mine with it. Brooke wasn't stupid. That had never been the problem. She was quick, socially fluent, and creative enough to make other people want to participate in whatever she imagined. If she had been stupid, maybe the family would have been less invested in pretending she was one lucky break away from becoming the person she kept announcing. I don't think you're stupid, I said. I think you knew I would say no. Her eyes flickered. Mom folded the dirty napkin into a smaller square. She believed you had already said no, she said. I said I'd review a business plan. You made her feel dismissed. That does not unlock my office. I had the key, Mom said. An emergency key. This felt like an emergency. I stared at her. Brooke looked away first. What exactly was the emergency? I asked. She couldn't meet Dana in a coffee shop? She needed to look established. So you made her look established with my furniture. I helped her move a few things. You helped move my things. Into the back room. We didn't throw anything away. Do you hear yourself? Mom's chin lifted. I hear myself perfectly well. I thought two sisters could share a space for a short period without treating each other like enemies. There was no sharing. I wasn't asked. You would have said no. Yes. Then what difference would asking have made? That stopped me. Brooke shifted behind Mom, her expression cautious. She knew when someone else had delivered the better blow. The difference, I said slowly, is that it's mine to say no to. Mom's face hardened. There it is. What? Mine. My office. My clients. My business. You make everything about ownership. We are literally discussing my office, my clients, and my business. You have always been territorial. I almost asked for an example. Then I remembered every family argument in which providing details had only created more surfaces for Mom to polish away. I went to my desk instead. The bottom drawer was blocked by Brooke's new file crate. I moved it aside and pulled the drawer open. My check folder was gone. Where are the 2 vendor checks? Brooke frowned. What checks? They were in this drawer. I put loose papers in a box. Checks aren't loose papers. They were in envelopes. I went into the back room and opened the box labeled personal. It held my framed photograph, 2 notebooks, a cardigan, the little brass bell Gina rang whenever we signed a contract over $10,000, and an unopened package of printer ink. No check folder. I opened the top file box, old proposals. The second contained vendor catalogs and my spare shoes. The checks were inside one shoe, folded in their envelopes. For one awful second, I pictured explaining to 2 vendors that their payments had been lost during my sister's unauthorized office renovation. I carried them back into the front room. You put these in a shoe? Brooke looked genuinely embarrassed. I didn't. Well, Mom wasn't sorting files. I was trying to clear the drawers before Dana came. You mean hide the evidence that somebody already worked here? That is not what I meant. Get your things out. Brooke's embarrassment disappeared. I have another meeting at 11. Cancel it. I'm not canceling because you came home in a mood. I'm calling the building owner and then I'm having the lock changed. Mom's eyes widened. You're going to change the lock on your own mother? I'm changing the lock on a door she opened for someone else. I have helped you in this office. Yes, you let in a plumber. That's why you had the key. I brought you lunch. You don't need a key to bring lunch. You know what I mean? I don't anymore. Mom put the pastry tongs down so hard they struck the serving board. Fine. Change your lock. Make sure everyone knows how independent you are. Brooke picked up her phone. What are you doing? Mom asked. Calling Dad. Apparently, we have to move everything because Natalie can't stand to see me try. I sat at my desk and called the building owner before either of them could create a new version of what I'd said. Mr. Bellwether wasn't related to Miguel downstairs despite sharing the bakery's name. His grandfather had owned both businesses once, and Columbus had apparently decided not to simplify the matter. When I explained that an unauthorized copy of my key had been used, he agreed to send his locksmith that afternoon. You need another spare? He asked. No. Mom heard me. She gathered the croissants back into their white bakery box, pressing the lid down hard enough to flatten the top one. You haven't slept, she said. You are making permanent decisions while exhausted. The lock isn't permanent. You know what I mean. Again, I wasn't sure I did. Brooke canceled her 11 o'clock consultation in the hallway, speaking loudly enough for me to hear. I'm so sorry, she said in a soft, professional voice. There's been an unexpected issue with the space. My sister is having a difficult day. I closed my eyes. Mom carried the pastries out without saying goodbye. For the next hour, Brooke and I moved around each other in silence. She pulled artificial flower arrangements apart and shoved them into plastic tubs. I restored binders to shelves. Every few minutes, one of us reached for something the other was holding. When Dad arrived, he came upstairs wearing work gloves. Morning, he said. No one answered. He surveyed the room, taking in the tubs, the gold sign, and the open boxes. Could Brooke use the back room for a month? He asked. No, I said. It's just sitting there. It was a consultation room. You could consult in here. Brooke gave him a grateful look. Dad, I said. She told my clients I quit. He pulled at the fingertips of one glove. She shouldn't have done that. She shouldn't be here. I'm trying to separate the issues. They're not separate. Mom reappeared behind him with the empty pastry board tucked under her arm. I told you she wouldn't compromise, she said. I offered a month, Dad told me, as if he were a neutral diplomat reporting failed peace terms. You offered something that isn't yours. He looked tired. Everybody keeps saying that today. Brooke carried the gold sign toward the door. The bottom corner struck the frame, leaving a shallow dent in the wood. She looked at it, then at me. Send me the bill, she said. I probably will. That surprised her. Brooke was used to sarcasm functioning as a receipt. Dad made 3 trips downstairs. Mom made 1, carrying the pastry box and Brooke's handbag. Brooke took the pink business cards, the mood boards, and finally the file crate that had blocked my drawer. At the door, she turned back. You didn't build all of this alone. I looked around the office. I never said I did. You used me. I paid you. Not what I was worth. You set your hourly rate. I brought energy. I made people comfortable. Half those clients remembered me. They remembered you because I introduced you. Her eyes filled, which made me angrier because I still hated seeing her cry. You had more than enough, she said. You could have let me have something. Then she walked out. The locksmith came at 2. He replaced the cylinder and handed me 3 new keys. I put all 3 in my desk drawer. By then, the office looked mine again, but not right. The upholstered chairs were crowded with boxes. Brooke's peonies had shed plastic leaves across the carpet. My framed photograph had a crack in one corner. I was sweeping when a client named Francine called. I need to ask you something awkward, she said. I set the broom against the wall. Go ahead. Brooke told me you were transferring my event to her. I'm not. I wish I'd known that Friday. My stomach tightened. Why? Because I sent her the deposit. How much? Francine cleared her throat. $2,800. I sat down on the nearest box. What account did you send it to? The one on her invoice. She sent you an invoice? She said your payment system had changed because you were closing the company. I looked at the cracked corner of my framed photograph. The smiling version of me inside it was holding a clipboard beside a ballroom entrance, unaware that one day she would have to ask whether her own sister had invoiced her client. Francine, I need you to forward me everything Brooke sent. I already paid it. I understand. Will it still count toward my balance? There was no good answer. She had paid money because Brooke had used my name and knew the amount of her next installment. None of that put the money in my account. I haven't received it, I said. Silence. But Brooke received it for the event. Brooke isn't part of my company. Your sister's. Yes. That's why I believed her. The words were simple, almost apologetic. They still made my face burn. I'm going to speak to her, I said. Don't send any additional payment to anyone until you hear directly from me. I won't. Francine paused. Natalie, I don't want to get involved in whatever is happening between the two of you. I know. I hired you because I didn't want complications. I know that too. After we hung up, I called Brooke. For the first time in 4 days, she answered. What? She said. You took $2,800 from Francine Lewis. I didn't take it. She paid an invoice. For my event. For the event I'm taking over. You are not taking it over. You don't get to decide what another adult does. Francine thought she was paying my company. My business name was on the invoice. You told her my payment system changed because I was going to handle it. I stood and walked to the window. The bakery's striped awning filled the lower half of the view. A man on the sidewalk was trying to balance a cake box on one arm while opening his car door. Send the money back, I said. I've already put time into her event. What time? I reviewed the file. You went through her file? It was in the cabinet. The locked cabinet? You left the key in the desk. I had. In a small ceramic dish beneath a stack of sticky notes, because no one was supposed to be in the office except me. What did you do with her information? Nothing. You invoiced her. I created a revised concept. You changed a contract you didn't have. I was helping. You told her I was closing my company. You wouldn't have given me a client. I had to create momentum. There was something almost honest in that sentence. You created momentum by pushing me out of the way. You weren't there. I was doing my job. You're always doing your job, Natalie. That's the problem. I laughed once. What does that even mean? It means there's never any room for anyone else. You act like being busy makes you the only person who matters. I want the money returned today. I don't have all of it. I stopped pacing. How much do you have? That's none of your business. It became my business when Francine asked whether it counted toward what she owes me. She paid my company. What did you spend? I invested in startup costs. My eyes moved around the room. The plastic peony leaves, the dented doorframe, the pale pink cards Brooke had taken with her, the sign, branding, a website, business registration, supplies. You used my client's deposit to launch the company you used to take my client. You make everything sound criminal. I didn't use that word. You were thinking it. I wasn't, not exactly. I was thinking about Francine's voice when she said she hired me because she didn't want complications. I was thinking about the florist order due in 2 weeks and the balance I was now missing. How much is left? I asked. About $1,900. Send it back now. You can repay the rest yourself. I don't have $900. You had money for a gold sign. I just told you where that came from. Then return the sign. It's custom. Brooke. Stop saying my name like I'm a defective appliance. Send Francine $1,900. Call her and tell her you were not authorized to take over her event. Then make a plan for the other $900. I can do the event. No, you don't own her. No, but she has a contract with me. She can switch. She didn't choose to switch. You lied. I gave her another option. You told her there was no first option." Her breathing changed. I could picture her pacing Mom's kitchen, running her fingers through her hair, looking toward Mom for a line she could use. "I knew you would do this," she said. "Ask for the money back? Make sure I couldn't even get started. You got started. You just did it standing on my neck." She hung up. I called Francine again and told her Brooke had confirmed receiving the payment. I did not tell her that $900 was gone. Not yet. I said I had instructed Brooke to return the full amount and would update her by the end of the day. "Can't you just transfer it between your companies?" she asked. "We don't have connected companies." Oh. That small word carried more doubt than any accusation. At 3, the locksmith finished testing the new keys. I paid him, put the receipt in my desk, and locked the drawer containing all 3 copies. He glanced at the boxes crowding the consultation room. "Moving in?" he asked. "Apparently." He smiled, decided I wasn't joking, and left. I spent the rest of the afternoon restoring the office. My body had moved beyond tired into something light and electrical. Every time footsteps sounded on the stairs, I looked toward the door. Gina arrived at 5 with a paper bag from the bakery and her overnight suitcase still in the trunk. "You drove straight here?" I asked. I stopped for gas. "That isn't rest. Neither is whatever this is." She looked around the front room. I had rehung my licenses, but one tilted slightly lower than the others. My consultation chairs remained buried. How much did they move? Enough to find a client's payment schedule. Gina's face changed. I told her about Francine. She put the bakery bag on my desk. "You need to talk to someone. I'm talking to you. Someone with letters after their name. I don't want to turn this into that." "Into what?" "A legal war between sisters." I was going to say an accountant. "Oh, though the fact that your mind went there is interesting." I opened the bag. Miguel had sent 2 sandwiches and an apple turnover with an icing, smiley face. "I'm not covering Brooke's missing $900, I said. "Good. Francine may leave. She may. I could cover it, keep the event, and deal with Brooke privately." Gina pulled a chair free from beneath a box of fabric books. "That's what they're expecting." "I don't know that. Your sister spent the money because she assumed somebody would make the situation survivable. She may have thought she'd earn the rest from the event. She thought she'd be allowed to keep the event." I hated how easily Brooke's logic fit inside that sentence. My phone rang. Mom. I declined the call. It rang again. Gina raised an eyebrow. "If I don't answer, she'll come here. Door's locked. She knows where I live." I answered. "Brooke is hysterical," Mom said. There was no greeting. "Did she send Francine's money back? She says you're demanding money she earned. She lied to get it. She spent hours preparing. She spent hours inside my files. You don't have to be so suspicious of your own sister. Mom, she told people I quit and collected a payment from one of my clients. She believes Francine wants to work with her. Francine believed I handed her over. You could let Brooke finish that one event. No, it would allow her to repay what she invested. With Francine's deposit, Brooke should not have spent it so quickly. I told her that. It was the closest Mom had come to admitting Brooke had done anything wrong. "She needs to return $1,900 tonight," I said. "Then she needs to find $900. Where?" "I don't know. You know she has no income. She had $2,800 this morning. You have savings." Gina looked up sharply. I turned away from her. "You want me to replace the money Brooke took? I'm saying you could solve the immediate problem. For whom? For everyone. It would solve it for Brooke. It would protect your client, too. There was the trap. If I refused, Francine suffered. If I paid, Brooke learned that even stealing my place in someone's trust came with a family-funded exit. I'll protect my client by telling her the truth. You'll embarrass your sister? She invoiced someone under a lie." Brooke did not understand how serious this was. She understood enough to use a different business name. Mom became quiet. Then she said, "You have always enjoyed being the one who knows better." I looked at Gina. She had heard it. Mom's voice carried easily in the small office. I'm not paying it, I said. I hope being right is worth what this does to the family. Mom hung up. Gina leaned back in the chair. Does she practice those? No. They come naturally. At 6:12, Francine forwarded me a receipt showing $1,900 returned from Brooke Mercer events. $900 remained. At 6:30, Brooke texted me, "You got what you wanted. I have nothing." I didn't answer. The next morning, I arrived before the bakery opened. I had slept 4 hours and dreamed that every drawer in my office was filled with shoes containing checks. At 8, Francine called. She had received the partial refund. She wanted the remaining $900 by Friday. "If I don't have it," she said, "I'm canceling the event with both of you." I understand. I'm sorry, Natalie. I just don't know who I can trust right now. After the call, I sat in the quiet office with the lights off. Then another email appeared. It was from Paula Hendricks, one of my longest-standing corporate clients. "Due to the uncertainty surrounding your company's future, we've decided to move our winter reception to another planner. No request for explanation, no call, just one polite paragraph, followed by the cancellation terms copied from my own contract." I read Paula's email 3 times before calling her. She answered with the brisk voice she used when an event was already running late. "I expected to hear from you. I wanted to understand your decision. I think my note was clear." It was. "I'm asking whether Brooke contacted you directly." Paula exhaled. "Yes. What did she tell you?" "That you were leaving the business. Then I got your message saying you weren't." "I'm not. I believe that now." "Then why cancel?" "Because my board has concerns." Paula had hired me for 4 winter receptions, each one involving a room full of pharmaceutical executives who wanted to appear relaxed while checking the time every 45 seconds. She was not easily rattled. Once, when a hotel ballroom lost power 10 minutes before her CEO's speech, she lit the tables with battery candles and asked whether we could make the blackout look intentional. "What concerns?" I asked. "The conflicting communication, the possibility of disruption, your family situation becoming connected to the event. My family will not be involved. They already are." The sentence sat between us. "Did you speak to someone besides Brooke?" "I reached out to your mother." I gripped the edge of my desk. "Why?" "Brooke implied you were dealing with a private family issue. I've met Lorraine several times. I didn't want to bother you if something was genuinely wrong." Mom had attended 2 of Paula's receptions as my guest in the early years, back when I gave family members unused seats, so the room looked fuller. She had chatted with Paula over dessert and later referred to her as my friend from the drug company, even though Paula worked for a consulting firm. "What did my mother say?" "She said you were changing direction and the family was trying to support both of you through the transition." I closed my eyes. "I am not changing direction. I know that's what you're saying." "That's not what I'm saying. It's the truth. I'm not accusing you of lying, Natalie. It would have been easier if she had." "Are you asking to cancel under the 90-day clause?" I said. "Yes. The winter reception was 78 days away. Under our contract, Paula's company owed half the remaining design fee. Her email had copied the exact clause as if she anticipated a fight. "You won't owe the cancellation fee," I said. Paula went silent. "You're entitled to it. I don't think forcing you to pay me will make you trust me again. This isn't personal. It became personal before either of us wanted it to." She thanked me in the careful tone people used when accepting something expensive. After we hung up, I removed the reception from my calendar. The empty block looked enormous. Gina arrived at 10 with a legal pad, 3 highlighters, and the expression of a woman prepared to inventory a shipwreck. "What did Paula say?" My mother confirmed it. Gina stopped taking off her coat. "Confirmed what?" "That I was changing direction." "Were you?" "No." "I know." I'm trying to understand what she thought she was confirming. She was helping both daughters through a transition. What transition? The one where Brooke transitions into my office and I transition into a private family issue. Gina set the legal pad down. I'm updating my earlier recommendation. From accountant to therapist, from therapist to exorcist. I almost laughed. Instead, I opened my active client cabinet. Brooke had put the files back in alphabetical order, but she had reversed Hendricks and Harrison. That bothered me more than it should have. I removed the current account binder and found a printed contact sheet tucked inside the cover. It listed active clients, warm leads, and past clients likely to book again. I printed a new one every quarter for follow-up calls. Beside 19 names, Brooke had made small pink check marks. Francine, Elaine, Malcolm, Paula, 15 others. Gina stood beside me. "Well," she said, "that answers one question. It creates 19 more." We divided the list. I called active clients and anyone Brooke had marked who knew me personally. Gina contacted vendors and business partners with a short factual message that I approved before she sent it. No family history, no diagnosis of Brooke, no dramatic language. Natalie Mercer Events remains open and independently operated. Brooke Mercer is not employed by or authorized to represent the company. Please disregard any communication stating otherwise. The message felt humiliating every time I read it. It also felt necessary. At noon, a caterer called to say Brooke had requested pricing under the name Mercer Events. "Which Mercer?" he asked. "The one you've worked with for 6 years. See, that's what I thought. But she said you were combining. We are not combining. I didn't send her your rate sheet. Thank you. Family business can be tricky." "This isn't a family business." He paused. "Right." By 2, I had recovered 5 confused clients, reassured 3 vendors, and discovered 2 people Brooke had contacted who were not planning anything at all. One of them sounded disappointed. "I thought this meant you were retiring somewhere warm," she said. "I'm 38. People reinvent themselves. Not in Florida on my current savings." It was the first conversation all day that left me smiling. At 3:17, Francine called. "The full amount came back," she said. I looked at the bank screen open on my laptop. Brooke had returned $1,900 2 days earlier. The final $900 had appeared minutes ago from an account labeled L. Mercer. "I'm glad. It came in 2 transfers. Yes." "Was the second one from your mother?" "It appears so." Francine was quiet. "I feel terrible. You don't need to. I should have called you before paying. You were told I asked Brooke to contact you. But the whole thing felt strange." "That doesn't make it your fault," she sighed. "I've been talking to Martin. We still want the anniversary dinner, but we need a few days. Take them. You won't lose the venue? The venue is secure. And the florist, also secure. Okay." After the call, I sat with my hands in my lap. Mom had paid Brooke's debt. That was not surprising. The surprise was that part of me had still expected Brooke to find a way to pay it herself. My phone rang before I could decide whether to call. Mom. "Francine received the money," I said. "You're welcome. I didn't ask you to pay it. No. You were willing to let Brooke drown over $900. She spent money that wasn't hers. She made a mistake. She made several decisions. I took it out of our emergency account. Why? Because you refused to help." A familiar pressure formed behind my eyes. Returning Francine's money was Brooke's responsibility. With what income? Then she shouldn't have spent it. "You sound like a bank. I sound like someone who understands deposits." Mom's voice trembled. "Your father and I are not wealthy people." "I know. That money was for house repairs. Then Brooke needs to repay you. She will when she's established. She had a client and spent the deposit before doing the event. That isn't established. You made sure she lost the client. It was my client. You keep saying that because it's true. Brooke told me you refused to honor Francine's payment. I didn't receive it. You could have credited it toward the event and worked things out later. There it was. The solution everyone kept circling without saying plainly. I should treat the money Brooke spent as if it had reached me, complete the work, and privately absorb the loss so no one else had to sit with what she had done. "Why didn't you ask Brooke to honor the event?" I said. "She wanted to. Francine didn't hire her. She might have, if you hadn't frightened her. I stood and moved to the office window. On the sidewalk below, Miguel was helping an older man carry 2 bakery boxes to a waiting car. Neither of them appeared to be discussing who deserved to hold the heavier side. "Did you tell Paula I was changing direction?" I asked. Mom became very still on the phone. "Paula contacted me out of concern." "What did you say?" I tried to reassure her. "You confirmed Brooke's story. I said the family was working through a transition." "There was no transition. You were considering a corporate opportunity." "No, I wasn't. You told us about the retreat. That was a client event." I misunderstood. The quickness of it stunned me. Mom almost never admitted misunderstanding anything. Then I realized she had chosen the smallest possible mistake. She had confused a 10-day contract with me, abandoning an 8-year business. A harmless mix-up anyone could make. "Brooke told you what to say," I said. "That is insulting." "Did she?" "She was upset and trying to explain the situation." "Did she tell you I had quit?" "She said you were too busy to keep serving all your clients." "That is not quitting. I understand that now." Paula canceled. Mom inhaled. "I'm sorry to hear that. She canceled after you confirmed what Brooke told her." "I did not tell her to cancel. No." "You just gave the lie a mother's voice." "That is an ugly thing to say. It was an ugly thing to do." Mom hung up. I set my phone on the windowsill before I threw it. Gina, who had been working at the round consultation table, capped her highlighter. "Do you want the supportive response or the useful one?" "Useful. Save the transaction records, client messages, and your contact sheet." "I already am." "Supportive response. Your mother is terrifying." I returned to my desk. At 4, Valerie from Rutherford emailed a request for proposals for 3 regional meetings. I stared at it until Gina asked whether I had developed another enemy. "No," I said. "This one wants to hire me." "Excellent, do that. I'm not sure I have capacity." Paula just opened 78 days of capacity. The bluntness hurt, but it also cleared the air. I accepted the proposal invitation and scheduled a call with Valerie. For the next 3 days, I did nothing but work. I rebuilt Francine's vendor timeline even though she had not confirmed she was staying. I prepared the Rutherford proposal. I answered every client call myself because the business voicemail suddenly felt like an unlocked door. I did not respond. Friday afternoon, Dad appeared at my office carrying the blueberry loaf Mom had given me the previous Sunday, now frozen and wrapped in a new layer of foil. "Peace offering," he said. "Was it in the freezer?" "Your mother freezes everything. That loaf has seen conflict." He smiled, but his eyes were tired. I let him in and locked the door behind him. He noticed. "New key?" "Yes." He nodded as if inspecting a repaired hinge. For a while, he stood near the sample shelves and looked at fabric books he had no interest in. "I should have asked you," he said finally, "before moving the desk, before all of it." I waited. "I thought your mother had spoken to you," he continued. "Then, when it got strange, I thought staying out of it would keep it from getting worse." "Did it?" "No." The answer came without defense. That surprised me enough to soften something I wanted to keep hard. He touched the edge of the cracked photograph. "I'm sorry, Nat, thank you. Your mother's upset." "I know. Brooke too. I know." He put both hands into his jacket pockets. "We're having dinner Sunday. Your mother wants everyone there. Does she want dinner, or does she want an audience for telling me I'm selfish? She said pot roast. That doesn't answer the question. It's the best answer I have." I looked at the frozen loaf on my desk. I wanted to say no. I also wanted my father to stop looking 20 years older because the women in his family had finally refused to pretend nothing happened. "I'll come," I said. His shoulders dropped with relief. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Brooke. "Mom had to take money from Dad's house fund because of you. I hope destroying my business was worth it." Dad watched my face. "What?" he asked. I turned the phone over. "Nothing you want to mediate." Dad glanced at my phone, then back at me. "I'm not as useless as everyone thinks." "I don't think you're useless. You all wait until I leave the room to say the important part. That's because you usually leave when the important part starts. He accepted that with a small nod. Sunday, he said. 6. I said I'd come. Your mother will tell me I didn't make it sound welcoming enough. Tell her the loaf helped. He picked up the frozen blueberry loaf, considered it, and put it back on my desk. You keep it. Dad, this thing is a brick. Your mother will notice if I bring it home. That was how I ended up driving to dinner on Sunday with the same loaf Mom had given me a week earlier. I had thawed it, cut off the driest end, and wrapped the rest in clean foil. Even our baked goods had to be made presentable before returning to the family. Mom opened the door before I knocked. You're late. It's 5:58. I said 6. I'm here. She stepped aside. The house smelled like pot roast and lemon furniture polish. Dad sat in his recliner pretending to read the newspaper. The baseball game was on mute again. Brooke had not arrived. I carried the loaf to the kitchen. Mom followed me. What's that? Blueberry loaf. I gave you that. I know. You brought it back? I thought we could have it with coffee. She pressed one finger to the foil. Was it frozen? For a while. You shouldn't refreeze baked goods. I didn't. Dennis took it out Friday. Yes, then it's probably dry. It has survived worse. Mom gave me a look but set the loaf beside the stove. The table was already arranged with the good cream plates and cloth napkins. Mom used those napkins whenever she wanted the meal to carry moral weight. At ordinary dinners, we got paper towels folded into triangles. I took my usual chair. No, Mom said. Sit over there. Why? So Brooke can sit beside me. I moved one place to the left. Dad entered carrying the newspaper. Assigned seats? He asked. We're trying something different, Mom said. He sat at the head of the table where he had sat for 38 years, regardless of who actually controlled the conversation. Brooke arrived 12 minutes late with no food, no apology, and no makeup. Her hair was tied back, and she wore an oversized Ohio State sweatshirt I remembered buying her at an airport after she forgot a jacket on a winter trip. She stopped when she saw me. You came. Dad invited me. Mom invited you. Dad communicated it. Mom carried the pot roast to the table. Can we please begin without the little remarks? No one made a remark, Brooke said. You both did. Dinner started with the scrape of serving spoons against dishes. Dad asked whether anyone wanted gravy. Mom asked him why he was passing it before she had served the carrots. Brooke took a dinner roll and tore it exactly down the center. For several minutes, we discussed the weather. It was going to rain. It had rained before. The gutters needed cleaning. The house fund had apparently been meant for gutters and a leaking patch above the garage, not the entire house as Brooke's message suggested. I'll pay it back, Brooke said without looking at me. Mom set down her fork. You don't need to discuss that now. Yes, we do, I said. We are here to repair the family, not conduct a financial meeting. The family is out $900. The family helped someone who needed it. Brooke chewed slowly. I said, I'll pay it back. With what? Mom asked. You have no income. Brooke looked at her. That's helpful. I'm being realistic. Interesting time to start. Dad reached for the gravy again, found it beside his elbow, and set it back down. Mom folded her hands. I asked everyone here because this has gone too far. What has? I asked. The anger, the emails, the accusations, changing locks. Those are 4 different things. They are all part of the same conflict. The lock is part of having an office. You changed it because of me. Yes. Brooke stared at her plate. Mom waited for me to soften the answer. When I didn't, she turned to Brooke. You should not have contacted Natalie's current clients. Thank you, I said. I'm not finished. Of course she wasn't. Mom looked back at me. And Natalie should not have embarrassed you in front of Dana or sent messages making you look dishonest to every professional contact you had. They were my professional contacts. I knew some of them. Brooke's voice was quiet. You knew them because you worked my events. I did more than carry boxes. I didn't say you carried boxes. You talk about me like I wandered in twice and ate the appetizers. You worked 6 events. 7. One was Mom's anniversary dinner. I still worked. I paid you for the 6 client events. Barely. You gave me your rate. Because you said you couldn't afford more. I was starting a business. So when you were starting, everyone was supposed to understand. When I'm starting, I need certifications and a 5-year plan. I suggested one certification program and a business plan. You suggested I work for somebody else. Because you have never planned an event. I've watched you do it for years. That is not the same thing. Brooke pushed her plate away. At the Franklin Gala, the rental company delivered the wrong chairs. You were in the kitchen losing your mind, and I got the venue staff to swap the ballroom chairs before guests came in. That was helpful. Helpful. What do you want me to call it? I saved you. No. You helped me solve a problem. Because you can't say I saved you. The venue staff moved the chairs. Because I got them to. And I thanked you. You paid me for 8 hours and told me the next morning that I'd left my shoes in your car. You did leave your shoes. Dad rubbed his forehead. Mom leaned toward Brooke. Natalie has never been good at showing appreciation. I looked at her. I paid Brooke when she was unemployed, fed her at every event, drove her home and recommended her for 2 jobs. You always make kindness sound like bookkeeping, Mom said, because you keep pretending it didn't happen. Brooke's eyes were bright now. You helped me when I was failing. You never once treated me like I might be good at something. I opened my mouth and stopped. There was truth in that. Not all of it, but enough to make defending myself feel slippery. I had called Brooke when I needed someone charming at a check-in table or persuasive with a stubborn venue employee. I had never called her when I needed a budget built or a proposal reviewed. I told myself that was because she lacked the experience. I had not considered whether experience was something I could have offered before she tried to seize it. I should have told you when you did good work, I said. The table went quiet. Brooke blinked. Mom's shoulders relaxed, seeing a path. And Brooke should have asked, before using the office, she said quickly. So both of you made mistakes. No. Her shoulders rose again. What do you mean, no? I mean, those things aren't equal. You just admitted I didn't give Brooke enough credit. That doesn't make telling my clients I quit a communication mistake. Brooke's brief uncertainty hardened. You sent an email calling me unauthorized. You were unauthorized. You made me sound like some stranger who broke in. You had Mom's key. I thought you would let me stay once I was set up. The honesty of it quieted everyone. I looked at her. You thought if you moved in while I was away, I wouldn't make you leave. You hate scenes. So you created one big enough to trap me. You always give in eventually. Mom shifted in her chair. Brooke. What? It's true. You lied to Mom too, I said. Brooke reached for her water. I told her you'd said I could use the space temporarily. Mom turned toward her. You said Natalie offered. I said she was open to it. You said she was taking the Rutherford job and going remote. No. I said she might. I looked at Mom. She told you I agreed, and you still never called me? Mom's face had gone pale. I believed we had discussed it. You believed her. She was very specific. Brooke laughed bitterly. That's all it takes with Natalie. Be specific enough, because she's probably too busy to answer. Don't be cruel, Mom said. To whom? To me. Brooke stared at her. For the first time that night, she and I were on the same side of a silence. Dad cleared his throat. Maybe we should take a break. Mom stood and began collecting plates, even though most of us were still eating. I was trying to help. You knew after the first client called, I said. I knew there had been confusion. You confirmed it to Paula. I told her what I understood. After I told you it wasn't true. Mom carried 2 plates to the sink. One still held half of Dad's dinner. Lorraine, he said, I wasn't finished. You can have more. That was mine. She returned the plate with a sharp movement. I did not want Brooke humiliated, she said. You have a thriving business. One lost client will not end you. It wasn't one. You will recover. The words came out like reassurance. but I finally heard what sat underneath them. And if I don't? Mom stared at me as if I had asked what would happen if gravity stopped. You always do. Brooke lowered her eyes. There it was. Not because I mattered less, not because Mom loved Brooke more in any simple way, because my pain came with a warranty. I could be disappointed, overworked, lied about, and displaced, and everyone believed I would still function by morning. Mom turned back to the sink. Brooke needed a chance. So you used mine. No one answered. After dinner, Mom sliced the blueberry loaf. It was dry. She served it anyway, and we ate it with coffee because admitting it had gone bad would have felt too symbolic. Brooke carried plates to the kitchen without being asked. Dad turned the volume on for the last inning of the game. For 12 ordinary minutes, we almost looked like ourselves. Then Mom brought a thick envelope from the counter and placed it beside me. Before you go, can you look at this? What is it? Your father's insurance sent something about his cardiology appointment. They want a different referral code. Dad kept watching the game. Normally, I would have opened the envelope, called the number Monday morning, spoken to 3 people, and texted both of them the result. I slid it toward Dad. You should call the office listed on the letter. Mom frowned. You understand these things better. He can handle it. Dad glanced at the envelope. I can call. See? I stood. He can call. Mom's expression said I had failed a second test she had not announced. Brooke followed me outside. The air smelled like wet leaves. I reached my car before she spoke. I really did think you'd let me stay. I turned. She had her arms folded against the cold. Why? Because you always fix the part that makes the family look bad. That isn't an answer. She looked back at the lit kitchen window. I knew Mom would believe me because I told her what she wanted to hear. You were moving forward. I was finally moving forward. Nobody had to choose. You made her choose. She chose before I asked. For once, Brooke did not sound pleased to have won. Why did you tell my clients I quit? She rubbed her hands over her sleeves. I thought if people started calling me, you'd see I could do it. You could have built your own client list. That takes years. Yes, you had so many. They weren't extra. Her mouth twisted. I just wanted something that already believed in me. They believed in me. I know. That was the closest she had come to understanding the injury. Then she stepped back and spoiled it. But you could have shared. I opened my car door. No, I said. I couldn't. As I drove away, I saw her in the mirror, standing alone under Mom's porch light, wearing the sweatshirt I had bought her and looking furious that it wasn't enough. The insurance envelope did not follow me home. That should not have felt significant. It was an envelope. Dad was a grown man with a phone, a calendar, and a strong opinion about every recorded hold message he had ever heard. Still, at 9 the next morning, I caught myself wondering whether Mom had opened it. At 10:30, Dad texted me. Called cardiology. Referral fixed. Appointment still November 18th at 10. A second message appeared. Took 14 minutes. Your mother owes me an apology. I smiled and replied, Good job. Put it on the calendar. Already did. That was it. No disaster. No confused office staff asking for me. Dad had handled a task I had spent years treating as automatically mine, and civilization continued. Mom did not mention it. Valerie called that afternoon about the regional meetings. She wanted 3 events in Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Louisville, all within 8 weeks of one another. We would use the retreat format as a base, she said. Smaller attendance, similar branding. Is that something you have capacity for? I looked at Paula's canceled winter reception on my calendar. Yes. The answer came before I could examine how much of it was ambition and how much was a refusal to let the empty space remain evidence. We'll need a full proposal by Friday, Valerie said. Staffing plan, travel estimates, backup vendors. Of course. And Natalie? Yes? You don't need to explain whatever happened with that rumor. My fingers tightened around my pen. I appreciate that. I care whether you can do the work. I just watched you do it. After we hung up, I sat very still. Trust was strange. It could take 8 years to build, 3 sentences to damage, and 1 competent week to preserve if the right person had been watching. Gina came in carrying a box of charger cables and found me opening a new planning calendar. You got it? I got the opportunity to submit a proposal. That means you got it with paperwork attached. 3 regional meetings. She set down the box. You need help. I have you. You have me for event days and occasional hostage negotiations. You need someone who knows where your files live. I know where my files live. You found 2 checks in a shoe. That was not my system. Exactly. You need someone who understands the system well enough to know that. I resisted for 2 days, which was 1 day longer than necessary. Hiring a regular assistant had always felt like an expense I should postpone until the business became more stable. Instead, I used freelancers, temporary staff, and Brooke whenever she needed money. That arrangement had seemed flexible. Now it looked like another place where I had confused being needed with being efficient. Gina introduced me to Tasha Bell, a former hotel banquet captain who had left hospitality after 15 years, because, in her words, I wanted one weekend where nobody asked me to locate a missing vegan entree during my aunt's birthday. Tasha was 41, tall, and wore purple glasses with square frames. She arrived for the interview 7 minutes early and asked whether the radiators always sounded like that. Only when they're on, I said. They sound armed. They haven't hurt anyone. Yet. She had coordinated conferences, weddings, trade dinners, and one mayoral breakfast she described as 16 dietary restrictions, wearing neckties. More importantly, she asked questions about my filing system, vendor response times, and what authority she would have when I wasn't available. Brooke had always asked which clients were fun. Tasha asked which ones paid late. I hired her for 20 hours a week, starting with a 1-month trial. When I told Mom, she said, "You're paying a stranger to do something Brooke could have done." I had answered the call because her name appeared while I was ordering replacement folders. Tasha has 15 years of experience. How is Brooke supposed to get experience if no one gives her any? She can apply for jobs. She's building her own company, then she's busy. Mom ignored that. You could at least have interviewed her. She moved into the job without an interview. That little joke is exactly why she can't talk to you. It wasn't a joke. Mom went quiet, then changed subjects. Your father handled the cardiology issue. He told me. He was on hold forever. 14 minutes. He said it felt longer. Most things do when you handle them yourself. That sounds pointed. It wasn't. It was a little. Francine came into the office on Thursday afternoon. She stood in the consultation room while Tasha and I cleared the last of the displaced sample books from the chairs. "It looks normal," she said. "That's the goal. I don't know what I expected." "A smoking hole?" She smiled carefully. Her anniversary dinner was still 5 weeks away. The venue and florist remained secure, but we had lost 4 days waiting for her decision. 4 days wasn't fatal. It was just enough to make every future decision slightly tighter. "I want to continue," she said. "Okay, but I need one point of contact, me. And if someone else emails me, forward it without responding." She nodded. "I feel foolish. You believe someone who knew my office, my schedule, and your payment amount. When you say it like that, I feel less foolish and more alarmed. That's fair." She looked toward the front room where Tasha was labeling a drawer. "Is she your sister?" "No." "Good." The word escaped before Francine could soften it. We both laughed, and some of the tightness left the room. Keeping Francine did not restore Paula. It did not erase the emails I had sent or the questions vendors asked in careful voices, but it gave me one part of the damage I could repair by doing the work. Over the next 2 weeks, the office found a new rhythm. Tasha arrived at 9, opened the blinds, and made a list of everything I had been keeping in my head. Gina teased her about the radiators. Tasha taped a handwritten sign above the printer that read, "Threats require management approval." The Rutherford proposal became 3 signed contracts. I did not tell my family right away. That surprised me. Normally, Mom was the first person I called with good business news. She would say she always knew I could do it, then remind me not to overwork, then ask whether Brooke could help. This time, I celebrated with Gina and Tasha over bakery cupcakes in the office. Tasha raised hers to stable employment and printers that respond to fear. Temporary employment, I corrected. Don't ruin my toast. Brooke's business continued online. Her gold sign appeared in photographs taken against Mom's dining room wall. She posted sample tablescapes, vendor spotlights, and captions about building from the ground up. In one photograph, I recognized the brass candle holders from Mom's mantle. In another, the linens were from an event Brooke had assisted me with 3 years earlier. I asked her to remove that photograph. She replied, "I worked that event too." The design was mine, and the photographer's usage agreement was with my company. She removed it after midnight without responding. A week later, Mom called during a meeting with Tasha. "I need to ask you something, and I need you not to react." That usually helps. Brooke booked an event. I stood and carried the phone into the hallway. What kind of event? A grand opening. For what? A beauty studio. The owner knows someone from the furniture showroom. That's good. Mom sounded suspicious. You mean that? Yes. She has a real client. I heard you. The event is Saturday. Okay. She needs linens. There it was. What happened to her supplies? She has decorative items. She needs 12 black cocktail cloths and 6 rectangular ones. I don't keep that quantity here. I rent them. You have some in the back room. I have samples and 4 backup cloths. Could she use them? No. Mom exhaled through her nose. She will return them. They are not inventory, they're backups for my events. You don't have an event Saturday. I have a setup Friday and a breakdown Sunday. So they're sitting there. Mom, I'm asking a simple question. And I gave you a simple answer. Brooke is trying to repay us. Then she needs to include rentals in her price. She did. The rental company wants payment before delivery. That is normal. She expected the client's final payment first. Then she scheduled the payments wrong. You could call the company. They know you. I'm not putting her rental under my account. No one asked you to pay. If I place the order, I'm responsible for it. You always assume the worst. I assume the invoice. Mom's voice sharpened. If this event goes well, she could get referrals. She could start paying back the money you insisted on collecting. I did not collect it. Francine did. You know what I mean. I really don't. Mom hung up. Friday evening, Brooke called while I was supervising a ballroom setup downtown. I almost didn't answer. Then I pictured some new client receiving an email about my retirement. "What do you need?" I said. "Hello to you too." "Hello, Brooke. What do you need?" Behind her, I heard traffic and a car horn. The rental place closes in 20 minutes. They won't release the linens because the balance hasn't cleared. I can't help with that. You could call Mike. I don't know a Mike. Michael at Capital Party Rental. I work with Jasmine. Well, Mike says your account is in good standing. My grip tightened around the phone. Why does Mike know who I am? I said my sister uses them. Did you say you were affiliated with my company? No. Brooke. I said I had worked with Mercer Events. Did you give them my account number? I don't have your account number. Good. Can you call and guarantee the balance? No. It's $800. The client pays me tomorrow. Then ask the client to pay tonight. I did. She's in appointments until 9. Find another rental company. They're all closed. A florist walked past me carrying a crate of white hydrangeas. I stepped into the service corridor. What is your backup plan? I asked. You. The word came out so quickly neither of us could pretend it was a joke. No, I said. Silence. Then she laughed softly. Of course. You need to solve it without using my credit, my account, or my supplies? You want me to fail. I want you to plan your own event. I am planning it. Then plan it. Her voice broke at the edge. I have spent all week doing this. I haven't slept. The client changed the guest count twice. Mom glued 40 stupid gold flowers onto favor bags, and the studio owner keeps texting me pictures from Pinterest, like I can make furniture appear. I just need one call from you. For a second, she did not sound entitled. She sounded exactly like I had during my first year, tired, scared, and one missing delivery away from public embarrassment. My body knew what to do before my mind decided. Call Jasmine. Move the balance onto my account. Save the event. Explain later. The old reflex felt almost like love. I can't, I said. You mean you won't? Yes. Brooke breathed into the phone. You really are going to stand there and let me ruin this. I'm standing at my own event, doing my own job. That's always your answer. No, it's finally my answer. I ended the call before she could hand the panic back to me. Then I returned to the ballroom where Tasha had solved a missing table problem without calling her sister. Tasha looked up from a floor plan as I entered. Table found, she said. It was in the wrong service elevator. Of course it was. Was that your sister? Yes. She get the linens? No. Tasha waited for more. When I didn't offer it, she pointed toward the ballroom. The client wants to move the podium 6 inches left. Why? He says it isn't centered. It is centered, I measured. Then move it 6 inches right when he leaves. That's why I like working here. We finished the setup after 11. Every chair was placed, every charger centered, and every table clothed in fabric that had been ordered, paid for, and delivered by the company whose name appeared on the contract. I drove home wondering whether Brooke had found another solution. At 8 the next morning, Mom sent me a photograph. The beauty studio was long and narrow with white brick walls, mirrored stations, and bouquets of gold balloons tied near the entrance. Black cloth covered 6 rectangular tables. The edges were unfinished and pinned underneath, but unless someone crawled onto the floor, they looked acceptable. Brooke stood in the center holding a box of favor bags. Her hair was pulled into a high ponytail. There were dark circles beneath her eyes. Mom's message read, "She figured it out. No thanks to some people." I zoomed in on the photograph. Brooke had used rolls of fabric instead of rented linens. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. The gold flowers Mom had complained about covered the favor bags, and the artificial greenery was arranged in low clusters that did not block the mirrors. She had also placed a welcome sign directly in front of the emergency exit. I typed, "Tell her to move the sign beside the reception desk." Then I erased it. I typed it again. Then I erased it again. If Brooke wanted to run events, she needed to see the exit herself. At 11, Mom sent another picture. The sign had been moved. I hated the relief I felt. My own event began at 6 and ended without catastrophe. The client loved the lighting. The podium remained 6 inches to the right of center, and no one died. Mom called while Tasha and I were supervising the breakdown. Brooke's event was beautiful, she said. I saw the pictures. The studio owner was thrilled. That's good. She had to spend $300 on fabric. I'm sure she'll budget rentals differently next time. She wouldn't have had to if you made one phone call. I watched 2 crew members wheel a stack of chairs through the service doors. She solved the problem. That isn't the point. I thought the point was that she could do it without me. The point is that sisters should want to help each other. I did help her for years. And the one time it truly mattered, no. The one time it truly mattered was when she told my clients I quit. Mom made a frustrated sound. Must every conversation return to that? It's been 3 weeks. That's long enough to stop punishing everyone. I didn't order the linens. You knew how to fix it. So did she, apparently. Mom hung up. At 2 Sunday afternoon, Brooke posted 11 photographs from the grand opening. The captions thanked the studio owner, the balloon company, Mom, Dad, and every woman brave enough to build when the easy support never comes. She did not mention the black fabric. By Monday morning, the post had disappeared. Brooke was waiting outside my office when I arrived. She sat on the top stair with her elbows on her knees, holding a cardboard tray with 2 coffees. She stood when she saw me. "The bakery isn't open yet," I said. "Gas station." That explains the lids. One lid had started to dissolve around the drinking hole. She offered me the less damaged cup. I unlocked the door but did not move aside immediately. "What do you need?" "To talk." "About?" "Work?" "Whose?" "Mine." I let her in. She looked around the office. Tasha had reorganized the supply shelves and labeled the drawers in block letters. The artificial peony leaves were gone. My photograph had been reframed. My blue mug sat beside the printer, holding pens. "You changed everything," Brooke said. I put it back. "That's not what I meant." I set my bag on the desk. "You have 20 minutes. She sat in one of the consultation chairs. The coffee she gave me tasted faintly like hazelnut and strongly like a melted lid. "The grand opening went well," she said. "Mom mentioned it. The client liked the design." "Good. She hasn't paid the final $600. I put the coffee down. "Why not?" "She says the setup was late." "Was it?" "Technically." "How late?" "Guests arrived at 4. We finished at 4:10. That isn't technically late. The event didn't really start until 4:30. Your setup deadline was 4. Brooke pulled at the cardboard sleeve around her cup. "The fabric took longer than I expected. Did the client sign off on the fabric substitution?" I texted her. "And?" She sent a thumbs up. "That isn't the same as approving a change. It's literally a thumb pointing up. It could mean she saw the message. She said it looked cheap in 2 of the photographs." "Did it?" Brooke glared at me. From certain angles, I sat across from her. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to look at the invoice." "Why?" "Because she says she's deducting the cost of reprinting the photos she wanted to use in her advertising. Did your agreement give her that right?" "I don't know." "Then read your agreement. It's 1 page. That doesn't answer my question." Her mouth tightened. "I used a template online. Did you understand it?" "I understand words, Natalie." "Then what does it say about client deductions? I came here for help, not an exam. Help requires information." She looked toward the front room. Her eyes settled on Tasha's labels. "You like her?" she said. "This isn't about Tasha. You hired her immediately. I interviewed her, after 1 interview, and 15 years of experience." Brooke took a drink and winced at the coffee. "I know I'm not her. I didn't say that. You don't have to." The old conversation was waiting for us, fully furnished. I could have walked into it and stayed all morning. Instead, I held out my hand. "Show me the invoice and your agreement." Brooke unlocked her phone and emailed both. I read them on my laptop. Her invoice described custom linen rental even though she had purchased unfinished fabric. Her 1-page agreement required final payment on the event date, but did not specify whether that meant before setup, before guest arrival, or after completion. It also promised professional event photography, which Brooke had not hired. "Who took the pictures?" I asked. "Mom." "Is Mom a professional photographer? She has a good phone." That wasn't the question. The client knew Mom was taking them. "Did you charge for photography?" "It was included." "Included means she paid for it." Brooke's shoulders sank. "I copied the wording from your proposal. My proposals include a photographer when photography is listed. I thought it sounded polished. It sounded like a promise." She stared at the floor. "I spent $1,900, she said. "What did you charge?" $2,200. "And she still owes $6? The total was $28. So if she pays, you earn $900 before taxes and repayment to Mom. I know how subtraction works. Do you know where the $1,900 went? Mostly. Mostly is not a budget. I didn't ask you to insult me." "I'm not insulting you. I'm telling you why one good-looking event can still lose money." Her eyes flashed. "You think it was good-looking?" I looked at her. She tried not to smile. "The design was good," I said. "The fabric was risky, but you made it work. The favor table was balanced. The greenery looked better than the peonies. They were too pink. They were extremely pink. For a moment, we were sisters discussing fake flowers instead of enemies negotiating territory. Then her smile disappeared. "Will you call the client?" "No. She would listen to you. She hired you. So what do? Send a revised invoice with every completed service listed. Attach her text approving the fabric. Offer a reasonable deduction if you failed to provide professional photography because you promised it. Do not argue that Mom's phone is professional equipment. It has 3 cameras. Brooke, fine. And next time, final payment is due before the event date. What if they won't pay? Then you decide whether to work without it. That's harsh. It's business. She was quiet while I wrote down 3 changes for her agreement. I did not rewrite it. I did not call the client. I did not offer my company name, my account, or my money. I gave her the page. "Thank you," she said so softly I almost missed it. She stood and carried both coffees toward the trash. "Brooke." She turned. "Why did you delete the post?" Her face changed. The owner commented that the linens looked wrinkled. "That's all?" Someone asked why Brooke Mercer. Events and Natalie Mercer events had the same last name. "What did you say?" "That we're sisters with separate companies." The words sounded appropriate. They also sounded new. "Good," I said. She looked at the blue mug full of pens. "I'm sorry I used that." "The mug?" "Your office." I waited. She shifted her weight. And the clients. It was not a full apology. It did not name the lies or the lost reception, but it was the first sentence she had offered without explaining what I made her do. "Thank you," I said. She left before Tasha arrived. At noon, Brooke copied me on an email to the studio owner. The tone was professional. She acknowledged the photography issue, offered a $200 reduction, and requested the remaining $400 by Friday. The owner accepted. I forwarded the thread to no one. That evening, Mom called while I was eating soup over my kitchen sink. "I missed my eye appointment today," she said. "Why? You didn't remind me." I lowered the spoon. "I didn't know you had one." It was on the family calendar. "I haven't looked at that calendar in weeks. You always check it on Sundays." I didn't. They charged me $50. "I'm sorry, that's all?" "What else do you want me to say? You could call and explain there was a family emergency. There wasn't. There has been ongoing stress. You forgot an appointment. Because everything is different." I set the soup on the counter. "Mom, you have a phone. Put your appointments in it. I use the calendar, then check the calendar." She went silent. "You're doing this deliberately," she said. "Doing what?" "Letting things fall." "I'm letting you hold them. I am your mother." "Yes." "I shouldn't have to make an appointment with you to be part of your life. This isn't about being part of my life. It's about me managing yours. I never asked you to manage me." The denial was so immediate, I almost admired it. "You just called because I didn't remind you about your eye appointment. That's one thing. It's never one thing." Brooke was right. Once you decide someone has disappointed you, you make a list. I looked at the soup cooling in the sink. "No," I said. "I'm finally reading the list that was already there." Mom hung up. A minute later, Dad texted, "Your mother missed eye doctor. House tense. Staying in garage until weather improves." I laughed despite myself. Then a second message appeared. "Also, I paid water bill. Did you always do that online?" I typed, "For 6 years." The dots showing he was writing appeared, vanished, and appeared again. Finally, he sent, "I didn't know. I believed him. That was part of the problem." I called Dad the next morning. "Is the water bill paid? Confirmation number is on the refrigerator. Then you're officially more qualified than Brooke was when she opened her company." He laughed, then lowered his voice. "Your mother's home." I assumed. "She can hear through drywall when annoyed. Put me on speaker. I'd hate to make her work for it." He did not put me on speaker. Instead, he asked whether I could show him how the other household accounts worked. I'd been paying their water, gas, and property insurance online for years, then sending Mom a monthly total. It started when Dad had surgery on his right hand and Mom said online passwords made her feel watched. Dad's hand healed. The arrangement stayed. I went over Saturday morning with my laptop. Mom had gone grocery shopping, though the force with which she closed the garage door suggested the timing was intentional. Dad met me at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad. I wrote down the accounts, he said. He had written water, gas, house, pills, and other in large capital letters. What is house? Insurance or taxes? Those are very different. That's why you're here. We spent an hour changing contact information and setting reminders on his phone. Dad took careful notes, including instructions like, click blue button and do not click AD, which I thought showed excellent judgment. When we reached his prescription account, he frowned at the order history. "You've been doing these too?" When Mom texts me. "I thought the pharmacy sent them automatically." They send reminders automatically. Someone still has to approve the refill. He looked toward the garage door. "Your mother said she handled it." "Sometimes she does. And sometimes you do." "Usually I do." Dad removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Why didn't you tell me?" "You never asked. That's becoming an uncomfortable answer." I closed the account page. I didn't mind helping. I minded everyone acting like the help appeared by itself. He nodded. "Show me how to approve them." I did. Mom returned while Dad was practicing with an old reminder message. She set 2 grocery bags on the counter and looked from the legal pad to my laptop. "What's all this?" "I'm taking over the bills," Dad said. "No one asked you to. You said Natalie was too busy. I said she was making a point." Dad looked at me. "What point?" "Apparently that we are burdens." "I never said that. You didn't need to." Mom removed a carton of eggs from one bag and placed it in the refrigerator. Dad held up the legal pad. "It's our water bill, Lorraine. We should know how to pay it." "I know how." "What's the website?" "I have it written down." "Where?" "Somewhere." Dad looked at me again. I did not rescue either of them. Mom closed the refrigerator. "Well, since you have time to sit here giving computer lessons, maybe we can discuss Christmas. It's November 9th. We always plan early." Mom and Dad held an open house every December for relatives, neighbors, former co-workers, and anyone Mom had spoken to for more than 4 minutes in the previous year. It involved too much food, folding chairs in every room, and a punch recipe Mom guarded as if national security depended on ginger ale. "What about Christmas?" I asked. "Brooke is planning the open house." "That makes sense." Mom narrowed her eyes. "You don't object. Why would I? You've organized it for years. And now Brooke is. She thought you might help with the guest list and rentals." "No." Dad studied his legal pad with renewed concentration. Mom's mouth tightened. "You just spent an hour helping your father. He asked me to teach him something so he could do it himself. Brooke is asking for guidance. She can ask me. She shouldn't have to keep putting herself in a vulnerable position. Then she can plan the party without me. Your aunts expect the same setup. They're all adults. They'll survive a different chair." Mom folded one grocery bag into a perfect rectangle. "You're setting her up to fail. You just told me she was planning it." "She is." "Then let her. She needs the vendor information. Those vendors are in my business files. She can find vendors of her own." Mom looked at Dad. "Do you hear how she speaks about family?" Dad clicked the wrong button on his phone and opened a pharmacy advertisement. "I'm occupied. I left before the eggs could become part of the argument." Francine's anniversary dinner arrived 5 days later. The venue was a restored brick carriage house with exposed beams and tall windows that reflected the candlelight after sunset. We used deep red flowers, amber glass, and a thin gold ribbon around each menu, just enough 1986 to echo Francine's wedding without making anyone look for shoulder pads. Tasha managed the vendor arrivals. Gina handled the room. I stayed with Francine while she changed her mind twice about where to place the cake. "I'm sorry," she said after the second move. "You're allowed. I've been difficult. You've been married 40 years. You understand commitment and revisions." She laughed. Martin arrived early and stood alone in the doorway for a moment, looking at the room. He was a quiet man who had contributed exactly one opinion during planning: no ice sculpture. "This looks like her," he said. "It was the best compliment I received all year." The dinner ran smoothly. Francine relaxed after the first toast. Martin gave a speech about 4 decades of shared calendars, badly loaded dishwashers, and knowing which arguments could wait until after coffee. Francine cried. Half the room cried. Gina stood behind a service curtain pretending to check her phone. Near the end of the night, Francine found me beside the bar. "I'm glad I stayed," she said. "So am I. I almost didn't." "I know. Your sister sounded so convincing. She believed part of what she said. That's usually how people sound convincing." Francine touched my arm. "You handled it well." I thought about coffee in the trash can, the lock, the client list with pink marks, and my mother's eye appointment. I handled it eventually. She smiled. "That still counts." After the guests left, Tasha found me wrapping the leftover anniversary cake. "Your client wants us to take half," I said. "Your client is a wise woman. She also gave us 2 bottles of wine. Permanent employment gets better every day." I looked at her. "You want permanent?" Tasha paused with a stack of menus in her hand. "Are you offering?" 30 hours a week after the regional meetings begin. We reassess in 6 months. Benefits? Not yet. Paid time off? 1 week after 3 months. Printer authority? Full. She held out her hand. I accept. We shook over a box of leftover cake. My phone buzzed just after midnight while I was carrying supplies to the car. "Brooke, are you awake?" I called instead of texting. "Everything okay?" "Yes, I need to ask you something." Her voice sounded small and irritated about sounding small. "What? Would you be a reference for me?" I leaned against the side of my car. "For a client? A job?" That surprised me. "What job?" "Assistant event coordinator at the Hawthorne Hotel." The Hawthorne had 3 ballrooms, a rooftop terrace, and a banquet department known for running on strict timelines and stronger coffee. It was the kind of place I had suggested when Brooke first announced her business. "Did they interview you?" "Yesterday. They want professional references." "Does Mom know?" "No." "Why not?" "Because she'll say I'm quitting." "Are you?" Brooke sighed. "I don't know. The studio owner paid me, but after expenses I made $400 for a week of work. Then I gave Mom $200. That's a start. It's also less than I made selling dining tables." She was quiet. I thought if I did one event, the next one would happen automatically. It doesn't. I know that now. A rental truck passed on the street behind me, its brakes squealing at the corner. "What do you want me to say?" I asked. "That I worked events with you." "You did." "That I'm good with clients." "You are." "That I helped build your business." "No." She went silent. "I can say you were reliable on event days, handled guests well, and solved problems under pressure." I continued. "I can list the events you actually worked. I won't call you my partner or coordinator. You really need every word to be exact." "Yes." "That must be exhausting. It has advantages." Another pause. "Will you do it?" "Yes." "Thank you." I opened my car door, then stopped. "Brooke, the Hawthorne won't treat confusion as experience." "I know. They'll expect you to follow someone else's system." "I know, and if you make a mistake, I can't fix it." "I didn't ask you to." The answer came sharp, but it was still an answer. I wrote the reference the next morning. It was factual, positive, and shorter than the recommendation I once wrote for her furniture showroom job. Brooke called that afternoon. They offered me the position. That was fast. They need someone before holiday parties start. "Are you taking it?" "I think so." "You should. Don't sound too relieved." "I'm not relieved." "You are a little." "I'm glad you'll learn the business without risking your own money. That's a nicer way to say I don't know what I'm doing. You know some of what you're doing." She laughed softly. It might have been the first time she accepted a partial compliment without demanding the rest. "I still haven't told Mom," she said. "You need to. She's ordering custom napkins for the open house with my logo." "Why?" "She thinks it will generate business." "It might." She ordered 200. "How many people are coming?" 60. "That sounds like Mom." Brooke lowered her voice. "She already told everyone I'm planning the best open house she's ever had." "Then plan it." "I am." "Good. I might need the name of a chair rental company." "No, I'm not asking for your account. Just a name. You can search for one." "I know." She sounded annoyed, but not surprised. Before hanging up, she said, The hotel job starts Monday. Congratulations. Don't tell Mom before I do. I won't. That evening, Mom emailed me a spreadsheet titled Mercer Christmas Magic. I did not open it. Tasha saw the subject line over my shoulder. Mercer Christmas Magic sounds less like a spreadsheet and more like a threat. It's my mother's open house. Are you planning it? No. Then why do you have a spreadsheet? Because my mother considers email delivery a form of consent. I moved the message into a folder without opening it. Mom called before lunch. Did you get my email? Yes. What did you think? I didn't open it. You didn't open it? I'm not helping plan the open house. I understand that you're still making your point, but I need you to look at the timeline. What timeline? The setup schedule. Brooke wants to start Friday evening, which is ridiculous because the rentals won't arrive until Saturday. Then discuss it with Brooke. She started the hotel job. I know. Mom went silent. You knew. She asked me for a reference. You gave her one? Yes. So this was your idea? No. You told her to work under an established planner. The Hawthorne isn't a planner, it's a hotel. You know what I mean. I suggested she get experience. She applied on her own. She did not tell me until last night. That's between you and Brooke. She's abandoning her business. She planned one paid event. She was building momentum. She can still take clients if the hotel permits it. She'll be exhausted. Probably. Then why would you encourage this? Because she'll learn. She could learn from you. No. The word no longer required a paragraph behind it. Mom still waited for one. Finally, she said, I suppose you feel very satisfied. I feel late for a vendor call. I hung up. Brooke's first week at the Hawthorne produced a series of texts. Day 1. They have a 32-page banquet checklist. Day 2. A bride's sister tried to move a dessert station by herself and blamed the carpet. Day 3. My manager said we don't build budgets from vibes and looked directly at me. On day 4, she sent a picture of a supply closet with every shelf labeled. I understand, Tasha, now. I replied, labels are seductive. She sent a laughing face. The hotel did not crush her. It irritated her into paying attention. Her manager, Celeste, corrected her in complete sentences and expected the correction to survive until the next shift. Brooke hated that for 3 days. By the second week, she was telling me how many linen sizes the hotel stocked and why final head counts mattered. They make clients pay the banquet balance 3 days before the event, she said one evening. Imagine. You can enjoy being right for 5 seconds. I'm stretching it to 7. They also add a service charge if the count changes after the deadline. Yes, you could have explained this stuff without sounding like I was too stupid to breathe. I tried. You gave me a list of certification programs at Mom's kitchen table. That was one conversation. It was the conversation. No. The conversation happened after you got fired and announced a company before coffee. Dad had finally put the carafe back under the machine, but neither of us mentioned that. Brooke sighed. Celeste says I'm good with people. You are. She says I need to slow down when I'm excited. That is also true. She didn't say it like an insult. Maybe I did. The admission surprised both of us. Brooke became quiet. I still shouldn't have taken your clients, she said. No, I know. It was not forgiveness. It was a place where forgiveness might eventually be set down without falling through the floor. Then she said, Mom increased the open house guest list. To what? 94. It was 60. She invited the entire garden club. Mom isn't in a garden club. She went to one meeting with Mrs. Porter and decided they bonded. Of course. The caterer's order is for 75. Change it. She doesn't want to pay the additional cost. That doesn't create food. She says people never eat as much as planners think. She says that because she has never watched 90 adults locate one tray of crab cakes. Brooke groaned. I need Saturday morning off from the hotel. Did you request it? I told Celeste I had a family obligation. That isn't a request. I'm going to ask tomorrow. Ask today. She's in a mood. Ask anyway. Brooke hesitated. If she says no, Mom will lose it. Mom doesn't employ you. No, she just remembers every disappointment forever. That's not true. She forgets yours by breakfast. The joke landed badly. Brooke's voice flattened. Right. I'm sorry. No, you're not wrong. That was worse. She got the answer the next day. The Hawthorne had 3 holiday parties that Saturday, and Brooke was scheduled until 3. Celeste offered to let her start an hour earlier and leave at 2 if the afternoon ballroom turnover stayed on schedule. Brooke told Mom she would be at the house by 1. Why did you say 1? I asked, because 2 made her panic. And what happens when you arrive after 2? I'll deal with it. That's what you said about the linens. I solved the linens. You lost $200 and almost lost your final payment. Why do I call you? That's a good question. She laughed, but there was strain under it. December filled my calendar before I noticed it arriving. The first Rutherford regional meeting was in Cincinnati. Tasha managed registration while I handled vendors and client changes. Gina joined us for the dinner. We drove back to Columbus with 3 unopened boxes of branded notebooks because Valerie's staff had ordered for the original head count. At the office, Tasha entered them into inventory before anyone could put them in a shoe. Our second December weekend held a corporate awards dinner on Friday and a retirement luncheon on Sunday. Saturday was supposed to be the quiet day between them, used for equipment checks, final calls, and enough sleep to make Sunday's speeches feel meaningful. It was also Mom's open house. The week before, she called to ask whether I had my silver serving trays. I have 2, I said. I need them Saturday. I'm using them Sunday. You don't need them Saturday. I need them packed and ready. You can pick them up Sunday morning. No, 1 is mine. You gave it to me. I loaned it. For my office opening 8 years ago? I didn't realize giving you something meant it disappeared from the family. I looked at the tray on my sample shelf. It had a small dent near one handle from the first event Brooke ever worked with me. I'll return that one permanently after Sunday. Mom drew a sharp breath. That isn't what I'm asking. It's what I'm offering. You have become impossible. I have another call. You always have another call. Usually because I'm working. She hung up. Dad called 10 minutes later. Your mother is measuring the dining room. Why? Rental tables. Brooke should have the floor plan. She does. Your mother disagrees with it. That tracks. Dad lowered his voice. I told her 94 people won't fit. What did she say? That people move around. She's technically right. She expects you to come Saturday. I'm not, I know. Does she? She said you always say no until something becomes urgent. The honesty made me sit back. She is planning to wait me out. I think she assumes the party will matter more to you than the argument. It isn't an argument. I know that too. Dad sounded tired but clearer than he used to. What do you want me to do? He asked. About the party? About your mother? Nothing. She needs to hear me when I say no. She doesn't like hearing no. Neither did Brooke. Brooke's getting better. Yes. He was quiet. I am too, he said. On Thursday, Mom sent a group text to me, Dad, and Brooke. Family setup begins Saturday at 10. Natalie, please bring trays, extension cords, and bakery order. Brooke, confirm chairs and catering. Dennis, move cars before rentals arrive. I replied only to Mom. I will not be there Saturday. I am not providing equipment or managing vendors. Please coordinate with Brooke. Mom did not respond. Brooke called. She's furious. I was clear. She thinks you'll come. I won't. What if something goes wrong? Then you handle it. I'm trying. I know I could use some help. Ask a specific question. Brooke hesitated. The rental company has cocktail tables arriving between 10 and noon. The catering is pick up at 3. I'm supposed to get off at 2 and go straight there. Dad can't fit all the food in his car. Ask the caterer to switch to delivery. It costs $125. Then pay it or find another driver. Mom says delivery is wasteful. Your time is also worth something. She doesn't think so. I know. What would you do? I'd pay for delivery and reduce something decorative. The custom napkins already came. Then return whatever can be returned. She wants everything. You cannot give a client everything if the budget doesn't support everything. She's not a client. She's Mom. That makes the boundary more important. Brooke was quiet. I'm going to tell her the delivery is booked, she said. Is it? Not yet. Book it first. Right. She did not book it. I learned that Saturday at 11:40 when she called from a service hallway at the Hawthorne. The caterer won't change it now, she said. What happened? Mom said Dad could pick it up, so I canceled the delivery request. Now Dad says he has to stay home for the chairs. Find another driver. I called 2 people, and one is working, one has been drinking since brunch. Do not use the second one. I know that. In the background, someone called Brooke's name. I have to go, she said. The ballroom divider is stuck. What about the food? I'll figure it out. At 12:30, Mom texted a photograph of 6 rectangular banquet tables stacked in her driveway. These are wrong. I did not answer. At 1:15, another photograph arrived. The cocktail tables Brooke thought she ordered were 6-foot rectangles. The rental invoice showed the product code clearly. Brooke had chosen the wrong line. At 1:40, Dad texted, Your mother is using language not approved for open house. At 2:10, Brooke called. I was in my office with Tasha checking Sunday's retirement luncheon supplies. Celeste won't let me leave, she said. What happened? The afternoon group arrived early. We have to reset 2 rooms. What time can you go? 4. The open house starts at 5. I know. Call Mom. I did. She told me to leave the hotel. Don't. She says family comes first. You're on shift. I know. Her voice sounded close to tears. I made a mess. Yes. I thought I could do both. You can't. What do I do? Tell Mom exactly what is and isn't done. Ask Dad to find someone with a vehicle for the catering. Call the rental company and see whether they can exchange the tables. They close at 2. It was 2:13. Then use the rectangular tables. She'll hate them. She'll survive. Brooke breathed out. Will you call her? No. I knew you'd say that. Then why ask? Because sometimes I still think you'll become the old you if I sound scared enough. The words hurt because they were true. I'm sorry you're scared, I said. I'm still not taking over. She hung up to return to work. At 3, Mom called. I let it ring once, then answered. Her voice was tight and breathless. The tables are wrong. There are no chairs in the living room. The food is across town, and Brooke is refusing to leave that hotel. People will be here in 2 hours. I know some of that. She has made a complete mess of this. Telling her to leave work won't fix it. I am not discussing Brooke's job. I need you to come over. Tasha stopped counting table numbers. Mom continued. Bring your extension cords and the silver trays. Call your rental people. Pick up the catering on the way. You can fix this in an hour. The old answer rose inside me before she finished speaking. Of course. Send me the address. I'm leaving now. I looked around my office. My name was on the door. All 3 keys were still locked in my desk. Mom said, Natalie, are you coming? No. Mom stopped breathing for a second. What do you mean? No? I mean, I'm not coming. You just said you know what's happening. I know. I'm still not coming. This is a family emergency. It's a party with the wrong tables. 94 people are coming. Then put the tables against the walls and use them for food. We have no food. The caterer has the food. Across town. Dad can ask someone with a larger car. Your father is dealing with the rental company. He can make another call. Mom lowered her voice. I cannot believe you are doing this. I looked through the glass wall of my office at Tasha. She'd gone back to counting table numbers, but more slowly. I told you I wasn't helping with the open house. That was before it became a crisis. No. That's when my no usually stops counting. This is not about your little boundary exercise. Guests are coming to my home. Then cancel. I am not canceling Christmas because you want to teach me a lesson. I'm not teaching you anything. You're punishing me. No, I'm letting the people who planned the party handle the party. Brooke is trapped at work. She knew her schedule. She made a mistake. Yes. And you're going to let her fail. She can still solve it. How? The same way I would. Make calls. Adjust the setup. Remove things that aren't essential. You could do that faster. That doesn't make it mine. Mom's breathing became uneven. For a moment, I almost gave in just to stop hearing it. Then she said, "I need my daughter." It was the sentence she should have used first. It was also the one that had worked longest. "You need an event planner," I said. "I'm your daughter even when I don't fix the party." She said nothing. "I have to finish my work," I continued. "You'll have to handle this without me." I ended the call, silenced the phone, and placed it face down on my desk. Tasha finished counting. 36 table numbers, she said. "There should be 36. There are." "Good." She waited. "You okay?" "No." "Do you want to go?" "No." "Okay." She wrote 36 on the inventory sheet and handed me the retirement luncheon timeline. We checked every line. Then we checked it again. At 4:15, Dad texted me. "Ed from next door has SUV, getting food, tables ugly but functional." At 4:40, another message arrived. "Brooke here. Your mother speaking only to Punch Bowl." At 5:30, he sent a photograph. The rectangular tables had been arranged along the dining room and living room walls. They took up too much space, but they held food. The custom napkins sat in neat stacks beside ordinary paper plates. Mom's punch was in a large glass bowl instead of the silver dispenser she usually borrowed from me. Brooke stood near the front door, pinning greenery around the welcome sign. Her Hawthorne name badge was still attached to her blouse. Guests filled the room behind her. They were eating. Several were laughing. Nobody appeared harmed by the absence of my serving trays. I replied, "Looks good." Dad sent back, "Don't tell your mother yet." Brooke called after 9. "I survived," she said. I saw. "Ed's car smells like crab cakes now. He'll have a festive week." The tables were awful. They looked functional. One blocked the coat closet. Did people have coats? 94 of them. Then that was a problem. We used Mom and Dad's bedroom. That sounds like an event solution. She laughed, tired and real. Mom cried in the pantry. "I'm sorry." "She said you abandoned her." "I didn't. I told her that." I sat down on my couch. "What did you say? That she built the party around you, changing your mind?" The words warmed and hurt at the same time. "I did make a mess," Brooke said. "I ordered the wrong tables. I didn't confirm delivery on the catering. I should have told her I couldn't do everything with a hotel shift." "Yes." "You don't have to sound pleased." "I'm not pleased. You're a little pleased. I'm pleased you can name what happened without mentioning my personality. Celeste makes us do an event review after every banquet. I like Celeste." "You would." She was quiet. "I'm sorry I asked you to call Mom for me. You were scared. I knew you'd say no. Apparently you had hope. Bad habit." "No, just outdated." After we hung up, I checked my phone. Mom had left 3 voicemails. The first asked whether I was already driving over. The second said I had ruined Christmas. The third contained 20 seconds of silence, then the sound of her hanging up. I did not call back that night. Sunday's retirement luncheon began at noon. Tasha managed setup. Gina supervised the buffet. The guest of honor gave a speech that lasted 19 minutes longer than scheduled, but the kitchen held the entrees without drying them out. At the end, he hugged everyone within reach, including a waiter he had never met. When I returned to the office, my silver trays were still packed exactly where I had left them. Mom did not speak to me for 9 days. Dad sent updates. Eye appointment rescheduled. Put reminder in phone. Gas bill paid. Your mother says silence is not the same as peace. I did not respond because I was eating. Brooke started repaying the house fund at $200 a month. Mom tried to refuse the first payment. Brooke transferred it anyway. She also stopped posting as Brooke Mercer events. She did not formally close anything. She just quit pretending one successful grand opening had created a complete career. At the Hawthorne, Celeste moved her from banquet support to assistant coordinator after the holiday rush. Dad invited us to dinner in January. This time, there were paper napkins. Mom served chicken and rice. No one mentioned the open house until the plates had been cleared and Dad brought out store-bought cookies. Then Mom placed her old office key on the table. It hadn't worked for weeks, but I understood the gesture. "I was wrong to believe Brooke when she said you offered the space," she said. Brooke looked at her hands. Mom continued, "And I'm sorry for how everything turned out." I looked at the key. "That makes it sound like weather." Mom's mouth tightened. "I'm apologizing." "You're apologizing for the result. I just said I was wrong. Why didn't you call me?" "I believed Brooke." "Why?" "She was convincing. I called you from the resort and told you she was lying." Mom looked toward Dad. He picked up a cookie, then put it down. "You kept helping her after you knew," I said. "You told Paula I was changing direction. I have apologized for that." "No. You said you misunderstood the Rutherford job." "I did. You knew I hadn't quit." Mom pushed her chair back slightly. "What do you want from me, Natalie?" "The truth. I have told you the truth. You wanted Brooke to have my office. You wanted her to have my clients. When I said no, you decided I could afford to lose them. That is not fair. It's exactly what happened. I did not want you to lose anything. You just wanted Brooke to gain something that belonged to me." Brooke spoke before Mom could answer. "I told Mom you agreed because I knew she wouldn't check." Mom turned toward her. "You already admitted that. I'm saying Natalie's right. Once we were in the office, you knew she'd probably let me stay. I thought she might compromise." "You thought she would fix it," Brooke said. "Like always." Mom's eyes filled. "Both of you are determined to make me the villain." "No," I said. "I'm trying to understand why my no meant less than Brooke's disappointment. Because you were doing well. That isn't an answer. You had a business. She had nothing. I had what I built. And no one is denying that. You did. The minute you treated it like something spare." Mom looked at the useless key on the table. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. "I knew you would recover." The room became still. "I knew you would be angry," she said. "I knew there might be problems. But you have always been strong. You take care of yourself." Brooke falls apart. Brooke flinched. Mom kept going, as if stopping would make the admission worse. "When you were both upset, I worried about her because I trusted you to survive it." I looked at her. "That isn't trust. It was to me. It's favoritism with a flattering name." Mom wiped beneath one eye. "I love you both. I know." "Then why are you doing this? Because making one daughter survive what you protect the other from is not love in equal amounts." Dad stared at the cookie plate. Brooke spoke softly. "She's right." Mom looked at her, shocked. "You have protected me so much," Brooke said. "I started thinking consequences were things Natalie invented. That is not what I taught you." "No, it's what all of us practiced." Dad leaned back and exhaled. "I let Natalie handle things because she handled them," he said. Then I acted surprised. There were so many things. Mom folded her napkin, though it was paper and did not need folding. "I don't know how to fix this," she said. "You don't get a quick fix," I said. Her face crumpled slightly. Neither Brooke nor I rescued her from that. Dinner ended without a group hug. Mom packed leftovers but asked before giving me a container. Dad showed me the reminders on his phone. Brooke stood beside my car afterward and told me Celeste had complimented her banquet notes. "Specific praise," I said. "Your favorite, apparently." Our relationship returned in small pieces, none large enough to hide what had happened. Brooke asked before coming to my office. She never used my business name again. When she needed advice, she began with, "Do you have time?" Sometimes I did. Sometimes I didn't. Mom took longer. She still turned requests into assumptions when she was tired. I still heard accusation where she occasionally meant concern, but she stopped giving me family paperwork at dinner. She learned to use her phone calendar. When she forgot something, she complained to Dad instead of calling me to assign blame. Paula never returned. 2 smaller clients didn't either. There was no dramatic restoration of everything Brooke's lie cost me. There was work. The Rutherford meetings went well. Tasha became permanent. Gina continued arriving with gaffer tape around her wrist and opinions about every facility manager in Ohio. One morning in early spring, I stood outside the office while Miguel replaced the lettering on the frosted glass. The old letters had begun peeling at the corners, so I ordered new ones. Natalie Mercer Events. Nothing added. Nothing transferred. Inside, my blue mug sat beside the printer, still holding pens. The 3 new keys remained locked in my desk. My files were in their proper cabinets, and the consultation room was a consultation room again. My phone rang. Mom. I watched it for a second, then answered. Hi. Are you busy? It was a question, not an accusation. I have a client coming in 10 minutes. All right. Call me when you have time. I will. She let me hang up first. A woman was climbing the stairs toward the office carrying a folder and looking nervous in the way new clients often did. I unlocked the door and held it open for her. Are you Natalie? She asked. I am. I was told you're the person who makes things happen. I glanced at the chipped mug through the glass. Only the things I agree to, I said, and invited her inside.